Pretty never believed in fate until the night she sat in the wrong seat. The grand hall of the Silver Moon Palace stretched before her like a cathedral of shadows and candlelight, its vaulted ceilings disappearing into darkness above. She had arrived late to the Moon Gathering, the annual assembly where all the wolf packs of the Northern Territories came together under the rule of the Alpha King. Her invitation had been a mistake, she was certain, a clerical error that placed her, a lowly Omega from the Ashwood Pack, among the elite wolves who actually mattered. The seat she chose was near the back, tucked against a marble pillar where she hoped to remain invisible. The velvet cushion felt too soft beneath her, the armrests carved with symbols she didn't recognize. Pretty pulled her threadbare shawl tighter around her shoulders, acutely aware of how her plain dress stood out among the silk gowns and tailored suits surrounding her. The ceremony began with the dimming of lights. Alpha King David Nightshade entered through the main doors, and the entire hall fell silent. Pretty had never seen him in person before. Few had. He was a legend whispered about in fearful tones, a king who had unified the warring packs 15 years ago through blood and brutality. They said he could kill with a look, that his wolf form was massive as a bear, that he had never taken a mate because no one could match his power. But the man who walked down the center aisle was nothing like the monster from the stories. He moved with liquid grace, tall and broad-shouldered, his dark hair falling to his collar. His face was angular and severe, beautiful in the way a blade is beautiful, all sharp edges and deadly precision. He wore black from head to toe, and when his eyes swept the room, Pretty felt the air leave her lungs. Those eyes were amber, bright as coins held up to flame, and they seemed to see everything. David took his place on the raised dais at the front of the hall, and the ceremony continued. Pack leaders came forward one by one to renew their oaths of loyalty. Pretty tried to pay attention, but her mind kept wandering. She shouldn't be here. She needed to leave before anyone noticed. "You're in my seat." Pretty's heart stopped. She turned to find a woman standing beside her chair, beautiful and cold as winter itself. Rachel Thornhart, daughter of the Eastern Pack's Alpha, wore a gown of deep crimson that matched her painted lips. Her dark hair was swept up in an elaborate style, and her eyes, pale blue like ice, fixed on Pretty with undisguised contempt. "I'm sorry, I didn't know." Pretty began, starting to rise. "Of course you didn't know." Rachel's voice dripped with disdain. "An Omega wouldn't know anything about proper placement, would she? That seat is reserved for the Alpha King's honored guests, not for servants who wandered in off the street." Heat flooded Pretty's cheeks. Around them, other wolves had begun to notice the confrontation. She could feel their stares like needles in her skin. "I'll move," Pretty whispered. "I'm sorry. Too late for that." Rachel's smile was cruel. "You've already embarrassed yourself. The question is, what should we do about it?" Before Pretty could respond, a ripple of power swept through the hall, so strong it made the candles flicker. Every wolf in the room felt it, their instincts screaming danger. The Alpha King had risen from his throne. David Nightshade descended from the dais, his footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. He moved through the crowd like a wolf through tall grass, and that crowd parted before him without hesitation. Pretty's legs trembled. She wanted to run, but her body wouldn't obey. Her wolf, weak and small as it was, had gone utterly still inside her, recognizing the approach of an apex predator. He stopped in front of her. Up close, he was even more overwhelming, taller than she'd thought, radiating heat and power. Pretty couldn't meet his eyes. She stared at the floor, at his polished black shoes, fighting the urge to drop to her knees in submission. "What's your name?" His voice was deep and rough, like distant thunder. "P. Pretty, Your Majesty." Her own voice sounded tiny. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Look at me." It wasn't a request. Pretty's head came up against her will, compelled by the alpha command in his tone. Her eyes met his, and the world tilted. The bond snapped into place like a chain forged in starlight, binding them together with a force that stole her breath. Pretty gasped, one hand flying to her chest where her heart hammered wildly. No, this wasn't possible. She was Omega, worthless, nothing. She couldn't be. David's eyes widened, just for a moment. Then his face went carefully blank, but his hand moved, reaching for her with a certainty that suggested he had no control over the action. His fingers wrapped around hers, warm and strong, and that touch sent electricity racing up her arm. "Stay," he said quietly, and the single word carried the weight of a command that could not be refused. Rachel made a sound of outrage. "Your Majesty, this Omega has, leave us." David didn't look at Rachel. His eyes remained locked on Pretty's face, searching for something. "Everyone, clear the hall." Chaos erupted. Pack leaders and their entourages scrambled to obey, while others stood frozen in shock. Rachel looked like she'd been slapped, her face going red then white. But when David finally turned his gaze on her, she stumbled backward and fled with the rest. Within minutes, the vast hall stood empty except for Pretty and the Alpha King. He still held her hand. She still couldn't breathe properly. "You felt it too," David said. Not a question. Pretty nodded, unable to form words. The mate bond thrummed between them like a living thing, beautiful and terrifying. She had heard of these bonds, of course, the rare, sacred connection between true mates that transcended pack and station. But they were supposed to be fairy tales, myths to comfort young wolves who dreamed of perfect love. They weren't supposed to happen to girls like her. David's thumb traced over her knuckles, such a gentle gesture from such a dangerous man. "I've waited a long time for you. I don't understand." Pretty's voice cracked. "I'm nobody. I'm Omega. This has to be a mistake." "It's no mistake." His other hand came up to cup her face, tilting her chin up. "The moon doesn't make mistakes, Pretty. You're mine. You were always meant to be mine." Tears burned in her eyes. "I can't. I'm not strong enough for this. For you. I'll fail you. Then I'll catch you." David's voice softened, became almost tender. "I'll always catch you. But first, you have to trust me. Can you do that?" Pretty wanted to say no. Wanted to run from this impossible situation, from a future she couldn't comprehend. But the bond between them sang with rightness, and when she looked into those amber eyes, she saw something she'd never expected to find: hope. "I don't know," she whispered honestly. David smiled, and it transformed his face. "That's a start." The next morning, Pretty woke in a bed softer than clouds, in a room larger than the entire house she'd grown up in. For a moment, she thought it had all been a dream. The ceremony, the bond, the Alpha King claiming her as his mate. Then she saw the morning light streaming through windows 20 feet tall, the silk canopy above her head, and the reality crashed back over her like a wave. She was in the royal wing of Silvermoon Palace. She was David Nightshade's true mate, and she had no idea what to do about it. A knock at the door made her jump. "Come in," she called, her voice hoarse. A woman entered, middle-aged and kind-faced, wearing the simple uniform of palace staff. "Good morning, miss. I'm Pania, assigned as your personal attendant. His Majesty requested I help you prepare for the day." Pretty sat up, pulling the sheets around herself. "Prepare for what?" The formal announcement. Pania moved to the windows, pulling back heavy curtains to let in more light. "The entire court will gather at noon. The Alpha King intends to declare you as his chosen mate before all the packs." Horror flooded through Pretty. "Already? But we barely. The bond is sacred, miss. Once recognized, it must be honored." Pania's expression was sympathetic. "I know this must be overwhelming, but His Majesty is determined to do right by you." Determined. That was one way to put it. After clearing the hall last night, David had spoken with Pretty for hours, asking about her life, her pack, her dreams. He'd been surprisingly gentle, patient with her nervousness. But underneath that gentleness was steel. When he decided something would happen, it happened. And he decided she would be his queen. "What if I'm not ready?" Pretty asked quietly. Pania paused in her work. "Are any of us ever ready for destiny, miss?" The question lingered as Pretty allowed herself to be prepared for her debut. Pania drew a bath in a tub carved from a single piece of marble, added oils that smelled of lavender and moonflower. She washed Pretty's hair with gentle hands, treating her like something precious rather than the Omega servant she'd been all her life. "You have beautiful hair," Pania commented, combing through the long dark strands. "Like midnight touched with stars." Pretty almost laughed. No one had ever called anything about her beautiful. In her pack, she'd been invisible at best, a target at worst. Omegas existed to serve, to submit, to accept whatever scraps of kindness or cruelty the higher-ranked wolves chose to give them. "Pania," Pretty said hesitantly, "has the Alpha King ever mentioned me before?" "Before last night. Not that I'm aware of, miss." Pania began the work of drying and styling her hair. "But His Majesty keeps his own counsel. There's much about him that remains mystery." even to those who've served him for years. What's he like? Really? Painia's hands paused. He's a good king. Fair, in his way. He doesn't tolerate cruelty or dishonor. But he's also hard. The war that unified the Pax changed him, made him colder. Some say he lost the ability to feel anything beyond duty. She met Pretty's eyes in the mirror. Until last night, I would have agreed. But the way he looked at you, I've never seen that expression on his face before. Pretty's heart did something complicated in her chest. What if I disappoint him? Then you disappoint him. But you do it honestly, as yourself. Painia squeezed her shoulder. That's all anyone can do, miss. Even queens. When Pretty was finally dressed, in a gown of deep sapphire that brought out the blue undertones in her dark hair, with silver thread embroidered along the hem, Painia stepped back with satisfaction. Perfect. His Majesty will be pleased. A different knock came at the door, this one sharp and authoritative. Painia opened it to reveal a man Pretty recognized from the ceremony. Roland Blackwater, the Alpha King's most trusted advisor and the leader of the Western Pack. He was older than David, perhaps 50, with silver threading through his dark hair and sharp green eyes that seemed to catalog every detail. Miss Pretty. He inclined his head, the gesture barely polite. I'm here to escort you to His Majesty. Thank you. Pretty stood, smoothing down her dress with nervous hands. Roland's eyes tracked the movement. A word of advice before we go. The court is complicated. There are wolves who have waited years for a chance to become queen. Your sudden elevation will not be celebrated by everyone. Rachel, Pretty said quietly, among others. Roland held the door open. Watch what you say. Trust no one fully. And remember, appearing weak in this world is an invitation for attack. The warning scent iced down Pretty's spine. She followed Roland through corridors that seemed to go on forever, past walls hung with tapestries depicting legendary battles, past windows that looked out over mountains still capped with snow despite the summer season. Servants bowed as they passed. Guards saluted. Everyone stared. Pretty felt like she might shatter under the weight of all those eyes. The throne room was even more magnificent than the ceremonial hall. Pillars of white marble stretched up to a ceiling painted with scenes from wolf mythology. The first transformation, the moon's blessing, the ancient Pax running free under starlight. The throne itself sat on a raised platform, carved from black stone that seemed to absorb light. David stood before it, dressed in formal regalia that made him look every inch the king. His coat was black with silver clasps, a heavy cloak falling from his shoulders. When Pretty entered, his head turned sharply, and something in his expression eased. He descended the steps to meet her halfway. You look beautiful, he said quietly, for her ears alone. I feel like an imposter, she whispered back. David's lips quirked. Welcome to royalty. That feeling never quite goes away. He took her hand, lifting it to his lips in a gesture both courtly and possessive. Are you ready? No, her mind screamed, but Pretty nodded. The court filed in by rank, Pack Alphas first, then their seconds and families, then the various nobles and advisors who made up the political machinery of the kingdom. Pretty recognized some faces from the ceremony. Rachel was there, standing with her father, the Eastern Pack's Alpha. Her expression was carefully neutral, but her eyes burned with hatred. When everyone had assembled, David led Pretty to stand beside the throne. The room fell silent. My wolves, David's voice carried without him having to shout. Last night, the moon blessed me with a gift I had long given up hope of receiving. She gave me my true mate. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Pretty's hand trembled in David's, and he squeezed it gently. I know many of you have questions. Miss Pretty comes from the Ashwood Pack, an Omega by designation. But the bond between true mates transcends rank, transcends pack, transcends all our careful hierarchies. What the moon has joined, no wolf may separate. Your Majesty, a voice rang out from the crowd. Rachel's father, Alpha Marcus Thornhart, stepped forward. He was a large man, gray-haired and commanding. With respect, this is unprecedented. An Omega as queen? How can she lead when she has no Alpha blood? How can she command the respect of the Pax? David's expression didn't change, but Pretty felt the temperature in the room drop. Are you questioning the moon's wisdom, Marcus? I'm questioning the practicality of the moon's wisdom. Each word fell like a hammer blow. Pretty is my true mate. That makes her your queen. And any wolf who fails to show her proper respect will answer to me personally. Am I clear? Marcus paled but held his ground. Of course, Your Majesty. I meant no disrespect. I only worry about the stability of the kingdom. Your concern is noted. David's tone suggested the conversation was over. The mating ceremony will take place in 1 month, giving time for all packs to prepare appropriate celebrations. Until then, Pretty will be under my protection as my betrothed. Anyone who harms her, insults her, or plots against her will be considered a traitor to the crown. Pretty felt the weight of that declaration settle over her like a mantle. Protection, yes, but also a target. David had just painted a bullseye on her back. The assembly continued with various ceremonial matters, but Pretty barely heard any of it. She was too aware of the stares, the whispers behind hands, the calculation in so many eyes. These wolves were predators, and they'd just scented weakness. When it was finally over, David escorted her back to her chambers. At the door, he paused. I know that was difficult, he said. They hate me. Pretty's voice was small. All of them. They fear change. That's different. David tipped her chin up, making her meet his eyes. Pretty, I need you to understand something. This world, the court, the politics, the power games, it's brutal. Wolves will test you. They'll try to break you. But you're stronger than you know. How can you possibly believe that? You don't even know me. I know you sat in the wrong seat and faced down Rachel Thornhart with grace. I know you didn't run screaming when the bond formed, even though you wanted to. I know you're here now, despite being terrified. His hand cupped her face with surprising tenderness. Courage isn't the absence of fear, Pretty. It's moving forward despite it. Pretty closed her eyes, leaning into his touch. The bond thrummed between them, warm and reassuring. I don't want to let you down. Then trust me when I say you won't. David pressed a kiss to her forehead, chaste and sweet. Get some rest. Tonight there's a feast in your honor. More performances, more judgment. Wonderful, Pretty muttered, and David laughed. A genuine sound that transformed his usually stern face. You'll survive, and I'll be right beside you. After he left, Pretty sank onto the bed and tried to calm her racing heart. She'd survived the first day, barely, but something told her the real challenges were just beginning. She didn't know how right she was. The feast that night was a glittering affair held in the palace's grand dining hall. Long tables stretched the length of the room, laden with more food than Pretty had seen in her entire life. Roasted meats, fresh bread, exotic fruits, and delicacies she couldn't even name. Wine flowed freely, and the air filled with the sound of conversation and laughter. Pretty sat at the high table beside David, acutely aware that she was on display. Every movement felt wrong, every breath too loud. She picked at her food, unable to eat under the constant scrutiny. You need to eat something, David murmured beside her. You're pale. I'm not hungry. Pretty. His hand found hers under the table. I know this is overwhelming, but you need your strength. Before she could respond, Rachel appeared before them, a wine glass in her hand and a smile on her face. Pretty tensed immediately. Your Majesty, Miss Pretty. Rachel's tone was perfectly polite, perfectly poisonous. I wanted to offer my congratulations on your bonding. Such a surprising match. Thank you, Rachel. David's voice was cool. Your well wishes are noted. I also wanted to apologize. Rachel turned her gaze to Pretty, and those ice blue eyes held no warmth whatsoever. I was rude last night. It's not your fault you didn't know proper protocol. How could you? An Omega wouldn't have been taught such things. The insult was delicate but unmistakable. Pretty felt her face heat. Rachel, David's voice carried a warning. You're treading on dangerous ground. Am I? Rachel's smile widened. I'm simply stating facts, Your Majesty. Miss Pretty comes from a background so different from ours. It will take time for her to adjust to court life. I merely wish to help. She held out her wine glass to Pretty. Please, let me offer you a drink. A peace offering between us. Pretty stared at the offered glass. Every instinct screamed danger, but refusing would be seen as an insult. She reached for it. David's hand shot out, catching her wrist. Pretty doesn't drink wine, he said smoothly. But thank you for the gesture. Rachel's eyes flashed. Of course. How thoughtful of you to know your mate's preferences so well already. She took a sip from the glass herself, then set it on the table. I'll leave you to your meal. Enjoy the evening. As Rachel walked away, David released Pretty's wrist. Don't accept food or drink from anyone but Pania or me. Understand? Pretty's blood ran cold. You think she was trying to poison me? I think Rachel wants to be queen, and you're standing in her way. David's expression was grim. This world doesn't forgive obstacles, Pretty. It eliminates them. The rest of the feast passed in a blur of anxiety. Pretty couldn't shake the feeling of being hunted, like a rabbit surrounded by wolves. Which, she supposed, she was. When it was finally over, David escorted her back to her chambers. But instead of leaving her at the door as he had before, he followed her inside. "What?" Pretty began. "I'm staying tonight." David's tone brooked no argument. "There are too many threats. Until we're properly mated and you're under the full protection of my bond, you're vulnerable." Pretty's heart skipped. "You're going to sleep here?" "On the couch." David gestured to the elegant furniture by the fireplace. "I won't touch you, Pretty. Not until you're ready. But I won't leave you unguarded either." The thought of the Alpha King sleeping in her room sent Pretty's emotions into chaos. Fear, attraction, and something dangerously close to longing all tangled together. But she was too tired to argue. "Fine," she said quietly. "But you can't be comfortable on that couch. I've slept in far worse places." David began removing his formal coat, revealing the simple shirt beneath. The casual gesture felt strangely intimate. "Get ready for bed. I'll turn around." Pretty changed behind a screen into the nightgown Pania had provided, hyper-aware of David's presence in the room. When she emerged, he'd made himself comfortable on the couch, still dressed, but looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "Thank you," Pretty said, climbing into bed. "For today? For everything." David's eyes caught the firelight, turning them molten gold. "You don't need to thank me for protecting what's mine. Is that all I am to you? A possession?" "No." His voice went soft. "You're my mate. My equal. My other half. The bond tells me that. Even if we haven't had time to learn it yet." He paused. "Pretty, I need you to know something. I never wanted this life. Not the crown, not the isolation, not the constant vigilance. But I accepted it because someone had to end the pack wars. Someone had to create order from chaos. You sound like you regret it." "I regret what it cost me, what it made me become." David stared into the fire. "I'm not a good man, Pretty. I've killed without hesitation. I've made decisions that haunt me. I'm hard and cold and too damaged for someone like you." "Someone like me?" "Someone kind. Someone who still has softness left in them." He turned to look at her. "The bond between us is real. But that doesn't mean I'm what you deserve." Pretty studied him. This powerful, dangerous man who suddenly seemed almost vulnerable. "You're giving me an out," she realized. "You're telling me I could reject the bond. I'm telling you that you have a choice. You always have a choice." David's jaw tightened. "Even if it kills me to offer it." The admission hung in the air between them. Pretty thought about her life in the Ashwood Pack, the years of being invisible, unwanted. She thought about the fear and uncertainty she'd felt since arriving at the palace. And she thought about the way David's touch made her feel safe, the way his presence settled something restless in her soul. "I'm not going anywhere," she said quietly. "I'm scared, and I don't know how to be a queen. But the bond chose us for a reason. I want to find out what that reason is." David's expression transformed. Relief, hope, and something fiercer flooded across his face. "Pretty, but I need you to promise me something." Pretty sat up in bed, meeting his eyes. "Promise you'll be honest with me. About the dangers, about the politics, about what being your mate really means. Don't try to protect me by hiding the truth." "I promise." David stood, crossing to the bed. He knelt beside it, taking her hand. "I'll tell you everything. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Starting tomorrow, I'll begin teaching you everything you need to know to survive in this world. And to thrive in it." Pretty asked, surprising herself with the boldness. David smiled, slow and genuine. "And to thrive in it. You're going to be a formidable queen, Pretty. I can feel it." He pressed a kiss to her knuckles, then returned to the couch. Pretty lay back down, but sleep was slow in coming. She was too aware of David's presence, the steady sound of his breathing, the sense of safety his nearness provided. Somewhere in the palace, wolves were plotting. Rachel Thornhart and her allies were planning their next move. The court was waiting to see if the Omega would break under pressure. But for tonight, wrapped in the warmth of the mate bond and guarded by the most powerful alpha in the kingdom, Pretty felt something she hadn't felt in years. She felt hope. Pretty's education began the next morning at dawn. David woke her with a gentle shake, already dressed for training. "Get up," he said, not unkindly. "If you're going to be queen, you need to learn how to fight." Pretty groaned, pulling the pillow over her head. "Can't queens just delegate the fighting?" "Not this queen." David pulled the pillow away and Pretty caught a glimpse of amusement in his eyes. The court will test you. Physically, politically, every way they can think of. You need to be able to defend yourself. An hour later, Pretty found herself in the palace training grounds, wearing loose clothing and facing down the Alpha King himself. Other wolves trained around them, guards, warriors, nobles honing their skills. All of them kept stealing glances at the Omega who dared to stand on the same field as their king. "Show me your wolf," David commanded. Pretty's stomach sank. "My wolf is small, weak. She's not like yours. I don't care what she's like. I need to see her." When Pretty hesitated, David's voice softened. "Pretty, I'm not going to judge you, but I need to understand your capabilities." Taking a deep breath, Pretty reached for the shift. It came easier than it usually did, the bond with David somehow strengthening the connection to her wolf. In moments, she stood on 4 legs instead of 2. Her wolf was small, as she'd warned, barely larger than a normal wolf, with dark gray fur and eyes that remained human blue. She felt David's gaze on her and whined, ears flattening. Then David shifted, and Pretty's wolf went utterly still. His wolf was massive, black as midnight with those same amber eyes. It stood nearly 6 feet at the shoulder, easily 3 times her size. Power radiated from him in waves, and every instinct in Pretty's wolf screamed at her to submit, to roll over and bare her throat to this apex predator. But instead of attacking or dominating, David's wolf did something unexpected. He lowered himself to the ground, making himself smaller, less threatening. He whined softly, a gesture of peace, of reassurance. Then he shifted back to human form. "Come here," he said gently. Pretty shifted back as well, finding herself trembling. David pulled her into his arms, and she went without resistance. "Your wolf is perfect," he murmured into her hair. "She's quick, I could see it. Agile, and she's strong enough to shift easily, which many wolves can't claim. She's nothing compared to yours. She doesn't need to be." David pulled back to look at her. "Pretty, you're never going to win a fight through raw strength. That's not your gift. But there are other ways to survive, other ways to win. I'm going to teach you all of them." For the next 3 hours, David put Pretty through her paces. He taught her how to read body language, how to spot tells before an attack. He showed her pressure points on the human body, places where even a weak strike could drop a larger opponent. He made her practice evasion, using speed and cleverness instead of trying to overpower. "Good," he said when she finally managed to slip past his guard and tap his ribs where a knife would go. Again, faster this time. By the time he called a halt, Pretty was drenched in sweat and shaking with exhaustion. But she felt different, stronger, somehow, even though her muscles screamed. "You did well," David said, offering her water. "Tomorrow we'll work on your wolf speed. I saw potential there." "Tomorrow," Pretty groaned. "You're going to kill me. Better I kill you in training than someone else kills you for real." David's expression turned serious. "Pretty, I know this is hard, but the wolves who want you dead won't wait for you to be ready. We need to prepare you as fast as possible." The reminder sent a chill through Pretty despite the heat of exertion. "Do you really think someone will try to kill me?" "I know they will." David's hand came up to cup her face. "But they'll have to go through me first. And I promise you, that won't be easy." After training, Pania helped Pretty bathe and dress for the day's court obligations. Today that meant sitting in on the Alpha King's council meeting, something previously reserved for pack leaders and high nobility. "You don't have to speak," David had told her. "Just listen. Learn how things work." The council chamber was smaller than the throne room, but no less impressive, with a round table of dark wood at its center. Roland Blackwater was already there, along with several other wolves Pretty recognized as pack leaders. Rachel's father Marcus sat to Roland's right, his expression carefully neutral when Pretty entered. "Gentlemen," David said as he took his seat at the head of the table, Pretty beside him. "Let's begin." The meeting covered various pack matters, territory disputes, trade agreements, reports of rogue wolves causing trouble in the borderlands. Pretty listened carefully, trying to follow the complex web of alliances and rivalries that governed pack politics. Then Marcus cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, if I may raise a concern." David's eyes narrowed. "Speak." "It's regarding the upcoming mating ceremony." Marcus folded his hands on the table. "Several pack leaders have expressed questions about the match. There's talk that perhaps more time is needed. That Miss Pretty should be given a trial period to prove herself worthy of the position." Silence fell over the room. Pretty felt her face burn. A trial period, David repeated, his voice dangerously soft. Like she's applying for a job? Not exactly, but no. David's hand slammed down on the table, making everyone jump. Pretty is my true mate. The bond is sacred. There will be no trial period, no tests, no proving herself to anyone. The ceremony will proceed as scheduled. Your Majesty, please understand, Marcus began. I understand perfectly. David stood, and his power filled the room like a physical presence. You're attempting to undermine my authority and insult my mate. The question is why? Marcus paled but held his ground. I speak for several packs who worry about the stability. Then let me make something absolutely clear. David's voice dropped to a growl. Pretty is going to be your queen whether you like it or not. Any wolf who refuses to accept that is welcome to challenge me directly. And we all know how those challenges end. The threat hung in the air, unmistakable. Marcus subsided, jaw tight. Roland spoke up, his tone carefully diplomatic. Perhaps we could arrange for Miss Pretty to meet with the pack leaders individually. Not as a test, but as a gesture of goodwill. It might ease concerns. David looked at Pretty, a silent question in his eyes. She took a deep breath. I think that's a good idea, she said quietly, proud that her voice didn't shake. I'm new to this world. It makes sense that the packs would want to know me before accepting me as their queen. Marcus looked surprised. You would agree to that? Why wouldn't I? Pretty met his gaze steadily. If I'm going to lead beside the Alpha King, I should be able to face the wolves I'm leading. Unless you think I'm not capable of a simple conversation. The slight challenge in her tone made several wolves shift uncomfortably. David's lips quirked in approval. It's settled then, Roland said smoothly. I'll arrange meetings throughout the week. Now, shall we move on to the matter of the border incursions? The rest of the meeting passed without incident, but Pretty could feel the undercurrents of tension. She'd made a small victory, but it was just that, small. The real battles were still ahead. That night, as David again took up his post on the couch in her chambers, Pretty finally voiced the question that had been haunting her all day. David, why did you never take a mate before? Surely there were wolves willing. Why? He was quiet for a long moment. There were many offers, many political marriages proposed, but I always refused. Why? Because I'd seen what political matches did to people. My own parents' marriage was one, an alliance between powerful packs. They hated each other. My father took his frustrations out on my mother, and my mother took hers out on me. David's voice went flat, distant. I swore I'd never subject anyone to a loveless bond. Better to rule alone than to trap someone in a gilded cage. Pretty's heart ached for the pain in his words. But the mate bond, it's not like that. No, it's not. David turned to look at her through the darkness. The bond terrifies me, Pretty, because it means I can't protect myself from you. Can't keep you at arm's length. You could destroy me so easily. I would never hurt you, Pretty whispered. I couldn't. You say that now. But power changes people. The crown changes people. David's eyes gleamed in the darkness. I've watched it happen again and again. Then watch me prove you wrong. The promise hung between them, fragile but fierce. David smiled, sad and hopeful at once. I want to believe you. Then believe me. They fell silent after that. But the air felt different, charged with possibility, with the beginning of something that might become trust, might become love. Pretty fell asleep to the sound of David's breathing, feeling safer than she ever had in her life. She didn't know that in another wing of the palace, Rachel Thornhart was meeting with her father and several other wolves, plotting the Omega's downfall. She didn't know that forces were already in motion that would test her in ways she couldn't imagine. But she would learn, and in the learning, she would discover exactly what she was made of. Pretty's first official meeting was with Alpha Donovan of the Southern Pack, a grizzled wolf in his 60s who'd fought in the unification wars alongside David. They met in one of the palace's smaller receiving rooms, with Roland present as mediator and David watching from a discreet distance, close enough to intervene if needed, far enough to let Pretty handle things herself. Donovan looked her up and down with undisguised skepticism. So you're the Omega who caught our king's eye. Pretty lifted her chin. I'm the Omega who was chosen by the mate bond. There's a difference. Is there? Donovan settled into his chair with a grunt. From where I sit, you're a girl who got lucky. Right place, right time, right seat. His eyes narrowed. The question is whether you're strong enough to stay there. I don't need to be the strongest wolf in the room, Pretty said, channeling what David had taught her. I just need to be smart enough to survive it. Donovan barked a laugh. Fair answer. But survival isn't the same as leading. How do you plan to command the respect of wolves who spent their lives fighting for dominance? Pretty thought carefully before answering. I don't plan to command respect through dominance. I can't. I'm Omega, and pretending otherwise would be foolish. But there are other forms of strength. Wisdom, compassion, the ability to see solutions others miss because they too busy trying to prove they the strongest wolf in the room. Compassion. Donovan said the word like it tasted bad. Compassion doesn't win wars, girl. No, but it wins peace. And isn't that what we need now? The wars are over. The packs are unified. What we need is someone who can help them learn to live together, not just fight together. Pretty leaned forward. You fought in the wars. You know what they cost. Don't you want something better for the next generation? Donovan was quiet for a long moment, studying her with new interest. You're not what I expected, he said finally. I came here planning to tell the Alpha King he was making a mistake, that an Omega Queen would weaken us. And now I think maybe you're exactly what the stubborn bastard needs. Donovan stood, offering his hand. You've got more spine than I gave you credit for. I'll support your claim, girl, but don't make me regret it. Pretty shook his hand, relief flooding through her. I'll try my best not to. After Donovan left, David crossed the room and pulled Pretty into his arms. That was perfect, he murmured against her hair. You were perfect. I was terrified. I know, but you didn't let it stop you. David pulled back to look at her, pride shining in his eyes. 1 down, 5 more to go. The next meeting, however, didn't go nearly as well. Alpha Cassandra of the Northern Pack was a beautiful woman in her 40s with ice blonde hair and eyes as cold as winter. She sat across from Pretty with perfect posture and a smile that never reached those frozen eyes. Miss Pretty, Cassandra said, her voice like silk over steel. How refreshing to meet someone so unpretentious. Pretty recognized the insult hidden in the compliment. Thank you. I find pretense exhausting. I'm sure you do. After all, you've spent your life as Omega. No need for pretense when you're invisible. Cassandra sipped her tea delicately. Tell me, how does it feel to suddenly be so very visible? Uncomfortable, Pretty admitted honestly. But necessary. Necessary. Cassandra set down her cup. An interesting choice of words. Do you see yourself as necessary to the kingdom, then? I see myself as the Alpha King's mate. Whether that makes me necessary to the kingdom remains to be seen. At least you're honest about your inadequacies. Cassandra's smile sharpened. But honesty isn't enough, child. The crown requires more. It requires breeding, education, the ability to navigate complex political situations without stumbling. She leaned forward. Tell me, what do you know of pack law? Of the treaties that bind us? Of the delicate balance that keeps the peace? Very little, Pretty admitted, feeling her face heat. But I'm learning. Learning. Cassandra laughed, the sound cutting. My dear, queens are born and raised for their position. They don't learn on the job. The fact that you're even attempting this is, well, it's admirable in its way. Naive, but admirable. Pretty felt anger spark in her chest. I may not have been raised for this position, but I'm here anyway. The mate bond chose me. Not you, not Rachel Thornhart, not any of the wolves who think they'd be better suited. Me. And I'm going to do everything in my power to be worthy of that choice. Passion is lovely, but it's not a substitute for competence. Cassandra stood, smoothing down her dress. I'll be honest with you, Miss Pretty. I don't think you'll last 6 months. The court will eat you alive, and the Alpha King will realize his mistake. When that happens, I hope you'll have the grace to step aside. She swept out of the room, leaving Pretty shaking with anger and shame. David was at her side in an instant. Don't listen to her, he said fiercely. Cassandra is bitter because I refused her marriage offer years ago. This is personal for her. But she's right. Pretty's voice cracked. I don't know anything about pack law, about politics, about any of this. I'm going to fail, David. I'm going to embarrass you. Stop. David gripped her shoulders. Pretty, look at me. When she did, his eyes blazed with conviction. You are not going to fail. Yes, you have things to learn. So we'll teach you. Roland is one of the most brilliant political minds in the kingdom. He'll tutor you in law and diplomacy. Pania knows every piece of court gossip and protocol. She'll teach you how to navigate social situations. And I'll teach you everything else. But what if it's not enough? What if I can't learn fast enough? Then we buy time. David's jaw set with determination. Pretty, I didn't survive the pack wars by giving up when things got hard. Neither will you. We're going to take this one day at a time, one challenge at a time. And anyone who underestimates you is going to learn a very painful lesson. Pretty wanted to believe him, but Cassandra's words echoed in her mind, a poison that wouldn't quite fade. That evening, Roland appeared in her chambers with an armload of books. His Majesty said you wanted to learn pack law, he said, setting them on the desk. We'll start with the Treaty of Silver Moon, the document that unified the packs. For the next 4 hours, Roland walked Pretty through centuries of wolf politics. She learned about the territorial wars, the blood feuds, the delicate negotiations that had finally brought peace. Her head spun with names and dates and clauses, but she forced herself to focus. You're a quick study, Roland said finally, closing the last book. Quicker than I expected. Is that your way of saying you thought I'd be stupid? Roland's lips quirked. It's my way of saying you might actually survive this. But Pretty, his expression turned serious. You need to understand something. The wolves plotting against you aren't going to challenge you openly. They'll use poison, rumors, carefully placed accidents. You need to be paranoid. Trust no one completely except the Alpha King and Pania. What about you? Roland met her eyes. I serve the crown. Right now, that means serving you. But my loyalty is to the kingdom first. If I ever believed you were truly dangerous to it, I'd act accordingly. The honesty was brutal but appreciated. Thank you for telling me. Thank you for being smart enough to ask. Roland stood. Get some rest. Tomorrow you meet with Alpha Marcus, Rachel's father. Pretty's stomach sank. That meeting promised to be even worse than Cassandra's. She was right. Alpha Marcus Thornhart received Pretty in his personal suite rather than the neutral meeting room, a power play that put her on his territory. Rachel was there too, sitting beside her father with a smile that promised violence. Miss Pretty. Marcus gestured to a chair positioned lower than his own. Please sit. Pretty remained standing. It was a small rebellion, but David had taught her that sometimes small rebellions were important. I'm comfortable standing, thank you. Marcus's eyes narrowed. As you wish. I'll be direct. I don't believe you're suitable to be queen. You lack the breeding, the education, and the strength necessary for the position. Your concerns have been noted, Pretty said, keeping her voice level. Noted, Rachel laughed. How diplomatic. Tell me, Pretty, do you really think a few etiquette lessons and some borrowed dresses make you our equal? You're playing dress up in a world you don't understand. Maybe. Pretty met Rachel's gaze steadily. But I'm still here. And you're not the one wearing the Alpha King's mark. The reminder that David had chosen Pretty over Rachel hit its target. Rachel's face went red, then white. The Alpha King is blinded by the mate bond, Marcus said coldly. Physical attraction isn't the same as competence. When the infatuation fades and he sees you clearly, he'll realize his error. And then what? Pretty asked. You'll offer him Rachel as a replacement? Force him into a political marriage? The mate bond doesn't work that way. It's sacred, permanent. Bonds can be broken, Rachel said softly, dangerously. If one mate dies, the other is freed. The threat hung in the air, unmistakable. Pretty felt ice slide down her spine, but forced herself not to show fear. Was that a threat, Rachel? A statement of fact. Rachel stood, moving closer. You're fragile, Pretty. Omega wolves don't live long in dangerous environments. Accidents happen all the time in court. A fall downstairs. Poison in your food. A blade in the dark. She leaned in, voice dropping to a whisper. How long do you really think you'll survive? Long enough to see you punished for threatening the Alpha King's mate, Pretty said, her heart hammering. That's treason, Rachel. You just confessed it in front of witnesses. What witnesses? Rachel gestured around the empty room. My father won't corroborate your story. It's your word against mine. And who do you think the court will believe? The Omega or the daughter of an Alpha? Pretty realized her mistake too late. She'd walked into a trap. No guard stood outside, no Roland to witness the threats. She was alone with enemies who wanted her dead. Marcus stood, and his power pressed down on her like a physical weight. Here's what's going to happen, Omega. You going to tell the Alpha King that you realized you not suitable for the position. You'll beg him to release you from the bond. Claim you're overwhelmed and scared. And if you do this, we'll let you live. We'll send you back to your pathetic little pack with enough gold to live comfortably. And if I refuse, then you'll die. Marcus's eyes went wolf amber. One way or another, you won't be queen. The only question is whether you survive the experience." Pretty's mind raced. She couldn't fight them. They were too strong. She couldn't call for help. They'd kill her before anyone arrived. Her only weapon was words. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. "Killing me won't free David to marry Rachel. It will only make him hunt you down. The Alpha King is ruthless when protecting what's his. You'll start a war you can't win." "Perhaps." Marcus smiled, cold and cruel. "But perhaps the Alpha King's grief will make him vulnerable. Perhaps in his rage, he'll make mistakes. And perhaps those mistakes will create opportunities for wolves clever enough to seize them." Pretty understood then. This wasn't just about Rachel wanting to be queen. This was a coup in the making. Marcus wanted the throne itself. "You're insane," she breathed. "You can't possibly think you could defeat David. I don't need to defeat him. I just need him distracted, weakened, grieving." Marcus moved closer, looming over her. "Your death will destroy him, Pretty. And in that destruction, the throne will be there for the taking." Pretty knew she should be terrified. And she was. Her heart hammered, her hands shook. But underneath the fear, anger burned hot and bright. "You won't succeed," she said. "David is stronger than you think. And I'm not as weak as you believe." Brave words from a dead woman. Marcus reached for her. The door exploded inward. David stood in the doorway, and the rage radiating from him made the air itself seem to vibrate. Behind him were a dozen guards, weapons drawn. "Step away from my mate," David said, his voice inhuman with fury. "Now." Marcus froze, his hand inches from Pretty's throat. Slowly, he lowered it and stepped back. David crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled Pretty behind him, placing himself between her and the thorn hearts. "Are you hurt?" "No," Pretty managed. "David, I heard everything." David's eyes never left Marcus. "The room was monitored. Every word you said was recorded, witnessed by my guards." His smile was terrible. "You just confessed to treason, Marcus. To plotting regicide and the murder of the crown's mate. The punishment for that is death." Marcus went pale. Rachel made a sound like a wounded animal. "Your Majesty, please," Marcus began. Silence. David's power crashed over the room like a wave, driving both thorn hearts to their knees. "You threatened my mate. You plotted against the crown. You've broken every oath you swore when I unified the packs." He looked at his guards. "Arrest them. Both of them. They'll stand trial for treason." As the guards moved forward, Rachel screamed. "This isn't over. You can't protect her forever. She's going to die, David, and it will be your fault for choosing wrong." One of the guards struck her silent. Marcus said nothing as they bound his wrists, but the hatred in his eyes promised vengeance if he ever got the chance. When they were gone, David finally turned to Pretty. She saw her own fear reflected in his eyes, saw how close she'd come to disaster. "I'm sorry," he said hoarsely. "I should have sent guards with you. Should have known they'd try something." Pretty threw her arms around him, burying her face in his chest. She was shaking now, the adrenaline wearing off and leaving her weak. "You saved me. I almost lost you." David's arms tightened around her. "Pretty, if they'd hurt you, but they didn't." "I'm okay." "You're not okay. You're terrified and trying to be brave." David pulled back to look at her, and his expression was raw with emotion. "This is my fault. I brought you into this world, this danger. Stop." Pretty put her hand over his mouth. "David, I made the choice to stay. I knew there would be danger. What happened tonight isn't your fault. It's theirs. They won't be the last. There will be others who try. Then we'll face them together." Pretty lowered her hand, replacing it with her lips in a kiss that was more comfort than passion. "I'm not going anywhere." David kissed her back with desperate intensity, like he was trying to convince himself she was real, alive, safe. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. "Come on," he said quietly. "Let's get you back to your rooms." That night, David didn't sleep on the couch. He held Pretty in the bed, wrapped around her like he could physically shield her from the world. She should have protested, should have maintained some semblance of propriety. But after what had happened, all she wanted was to feel safe. "David," she whispered into the darkness. What will happen to them?" "Marcus and Rachel. They'll stand trial. The evidence is clear. They'll be found guilty." His arms tightened around her. "Pack law is clear about the punishment for treason. Death." "Yes." Pretty was quiet for a moment. "I should feel guilty. They're going to die because of me. They're going to die because they chose treason, because they threatened the crown and my mate." David's voice went hard. Don't carry guilt that isn't yours, pretty. They made their choices. Will it stop the others? The ones still plotting. For a while, executing an alpha and his daughter will send a message. David pressed a kiss to her hair. But you're right, there will be others. This world is full of wolves who see weakness as an invitation. Then I'll have to make sure I'm not weak. David's chest rumbled with something that might have been a laugh. You faced down 2 wolves who wanted you dead and didn't break. You're stronger than you know, pretty. Stronger than I dared to hope. Pretty closed her eyes, letting his warmth and the steady beat of his heart soothe her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats. But tonight, she was safe. And she was learning something important about herself. She had survived. Despite the fear, despite the danger, she had survived. And if she could survive this, maybe she could survive anything. The trial of Marcus and Rachel Thornhart became the most significant event in the kingdom since the unification. Wolves came from every pack to witness it, packing the great hall until there was standing room only. Pretty sat beside David on the dais, visible to everyone, a constant reminder of what the Thornharts had tried to destroy. She wore a dress of deep crimson, David's choice, symbolic of strength and royalty. Her hair was arranged in an elaborate style by Pania, who'd whispered encouragements while working. Hold your head high, miss. Show them you're not afraid. But Pretty was afraid. Terrified, actually. Not of Marcus and Rachel. They were in chains, their power suppressed by silver collars that burned against wolf skin. No, she was afraid of failing David, of showing weakness that might encourage other plots. Roland stood as prosecutor, presenting the evidence with methodical precision. The recording of the conversation played for all to hear. Marcus's threats, Rachel's promises of violence, the admission of plotting against the crown. The room went dead silent as the wolves heard their alpha and his daughter confess to treason. When the recording ended, Marcus was given a chance to speak. I don't deny the words, he said, his voice carrying despite the chains. But I deny their context was treason. I was testing the Omega, trying to gauge her strength. Would she break under pressure? Would she run to the Alpha King crying? I needed to know if she was worthy. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Pretty felt her stomach drop. It was a clever defense, twisting threat into test. But David stood, and silence fell instantly. You claim you were testing my mate's strength, he said, his voice cold. Yet you offered her gold to leave, promised her safety if she abandoned her position. You spoke of her death, creating opportunities for those clever enough to seize them. That's not a test, Marcus. That's a conspiracy. A conspiracy you claim to have evidence of, Marcus shot back. Yet the only evidence is a recording that could have been manipulated, taken out of context. Are you calling me a liar? David's power flooded the room, and every wolf felt it. Pretty saw some drop to their knees under the weight of it. Are you suggesting I would manufacture evidence against an alpha? Marcus gritted his teeth. I'm suggesting that an alpha blinded by infatuation with an unsuitable mate might see threats where none exist. The insult was carefully calculated, questioning David's judgment without directly challenging him. Pretty saw David's jaw tighten and knew he was close to losing control. If he executed Marcus out of rage rather than justice, it would undermine his authority. She had to do something. Pretty stood, and the room's attention swiveled to her. She felt the weight of all those eyes but forced herself to speak clearly. Alpha Marcus claims he was testing me, she said. Very well, let's examine that test. She walked to the edge of the dais, looking down at the chained Alpha. You threatened my life. You offered me gold to leave. You spoke of opportunities arising from my death. If these were truly tests, what were you testing for? Marcus's eyes narrowed. I was testing whether you had the spine to stand up to threats, whether you'd run or fight. And when I didn't run, when I told you that you were making a mistake, what did you do? Pretty's voice gained strength. You moved to grab me. Your hand was reaching for my throat when the Alpha King arrived. If that was a test, Marcus, what exactly were you planning to test next? How well I could breathe with your fingers crushing my windpipe. Gasps echoed through the hall. Marcus's face darkened. The Omega lies. The recording doesn't lie. Pretty cut him off. Everyone here heard you. They heard Rachel promise that accidents happen, that Omega wolves don't survive long in dangerous environments. They heard you speak of the Alpha King's grief, making him vulnerable. Those aren't the words of someone administering a test. Those are the words of wolves planning murder and treason. She turned to face the assembled court. Some of you think I'm not worthy to be queen, that I'm too weak, too low-born, too omega to stand beside your king. Maybe you're right, but I'm standing here anyway, facing down the wolves who tried to kill me, and I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I'm not begging for mercy. So if you want to test me, come ahead. But know that I'll face you the same way I faced the thorn hearts, with my head high and my honor intact. The silence that followed was absolute. Then, from the back of the hall, someone started clapping. It was old Alpha Donovan. Others joined in, slowly at first, then building to a crescendo of approval. Pretty returned to her seat, her legs shaking. David's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. Roland called forward witnesses, the guards who'd been positioned outside Marcus's suite, monitoring the conversation. Pack leaders who'd heard rumors of Marcus's ambitions. Even some members of the Eastern Pack who testified that Rachel had spoken of getting rid of Pretty. By the time the evidence was complete, Marcus's defense had crumbled. The vote for guilt was unanimous. David stood to pass sentence, his face carved from stone. Marcus Thornhart, Rachel Thornhart, you have been found guilty of treason against the crown. The punishment, as dictated by Pack law, is death. However, he paused, and Pretty saw something flicker in his eyes. I'm not my predecessors. I didn't end the Pack wars just to continue the cycle of violence. Confused murmurs rippled through the crowd. You will not be executed, David continued. Instead, you will be exiled. Your wolf nature will be bound. You'll live as humans, unable to shift, unable to access Pack bonds. You'll be escorted to the border and released with enough supplies to reach the nearest human city. If you ever return to Pack lands, the death sentence will be carried out immediately. Pretty stared at him in shock. This was mercy, cruel mercy perhaps, as living without one's wolf was a kind of death itself, but mercy nonetheless. Marcus looked equally stunned. You would spare us? I would spare the kingdom another execution, David said coldly. We've had enough blood. This ends now. He looked out at the assembled wolves. Let this be known, I will not tolerate treason, but I won't create martyrs either. Marcus and Rachel will live out their days as humans, a warning to others of what happens when you betray the crown. The sentence was revolutionary. Wolves had never considered alternatives to execution for treason, but Pretty saw the genius in it. Marcus and Rachel would suffer every day without their wolves, and they would become sympathetic figures to wolves who might have seen them as heroes dying for their beliefs. As the guards led the Thornharts away, Rachel turned to look at Pretty one last time. The hatred in her eyes promised that this wasn't over, not really. But Pretty met that gaze without flinching. She'd survived. Again, after the trial, David and Pretty retired to his private chambers, larger and more luxurious than the room she'd been staying in. Pania had already moved her belongings. You're staying here now, David said, answering her unspoken question. No more separate chambers. After what happened with Marcus, I'm not letting you out of my sight. Pretty should have protested. They weren't properly mated yet, and propriety demanded separate rooms. But she was tired of almost dying, tired of being afraid. She wanted the safety of David's presence. Okay, she said quietly. David studied her face. You were magnificent today. The way you stood up to Marcus, the way you addressed the court. Pretty, you have no idea how powerful that was. I was terrified. I know. Everyone knew. But you did it anyway. David crossed to her, taking her face in his hands. You're going to be an incredible queen. I still have so much to learn. Then we'll learn it together. David's thumb traced her cheekbone. Pretty, I need to tell you something. When I heard Marcus threaten you, when I saw him reaching for your throat, I've never felt fear like that. Not in battle, not facing down rival alphas, never. The thought of losing you paralyzed me. But you didn't lose me. This time. But Pretty, this world is so dangerous. And you're so... He struggled for words. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. The thought of you being hurt because of me, because I made you queen. Pretty kissed him, cutting off the spiral of guilt. When she pulled back, she was smiling. David, you once told me that courage isn't the absence of fear. You were right. I'm scared every day. Scared I'll fail, scared I'll die, scared I'll let you down. But I'm here anyway. And I'm going to keep being here, no matter how many Marcus Thornharts try to stop me. David's eyes blazed with emotion, pride, love, and something darker, more possessive. The mate ceremony is in 3 weeks. After that, you'll have the full protection of my bond. Any wolf who hurts you will feel my pain, will face my vengeance immediately. And you'll feel mine too, Pretty pointed out. The bond works both ways. That doesn't frighten me. You, Pretty, are the only person in the world I trust completely." The admission hung between them, heavy with meaning. Pretty thought about what he'd told her about his parents, about his lonely childhood, about the walls he'd built around himself. And she understood what it cost him to trust her. "I won't break that trust," she promised. "Ever." That night, they lay together in David's massive bed, talking in whispers about everything and nothing. He told her stories of the unification wars, of battles won and friends lost. She told him about growing up Omega, about being invisible, about the small rebellions that had kept her spirit alive. "I used to dream about being someone important," Pretty admitted. "Someone who mattered. But I never imagined anything like this. Do you regret it?" David's voice was carefully neutral, but she heard the fear underneath. "No. It's terrifying and overwhelming, and I'm probably going to make 1,000 mistakes. But no, I don't regret it." She turned to face him in the darkness. "Do you regret choosing me?" "Never." The answer was immediate, fierce. "You're mine, Pretty. My mate, my queen, my other half. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving that the moon knew exactly what she was doing when she brought us together." Pretty fell asleep smiling, wrapped in the arms of the most dangerous wolf in the kingdom. And for the first time since sitting in that wrong seat, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she was exactly where she was supposed to be. The weeks leading up to the mating ceremony were a whirlwind of activity. Pretty's days became a blur of lessons with Roland, training sessions with David, and endless meetings with nobles, pack representatives, and various court officials who needed to meet the future queen. Roland proved to be a demanding but effective teacher. He drilled her on pack law until she could recite treaty clauses in her sleep, made her memorize the complicated web of alliances and blood feuds that still simmered beneath the surface of the unified kingdom. The northern and western packs fought a border war that lasted 30 years, Roland said one afternoon, pointing to a map spread across the table. It only ended when David defeated both their alphas in combat and redrew the territorial lines. The peace holds, but barely. Never put wolves from those packs in the same room unsupervised. Pretty studied the map, committing details to memory. What about the southern and eastern packs? Allied through marriage before the wars, but the alliance broke during the fighting. Alpha Donovan's sister was mated to Marcus's brother. When the brother died in battle, Donovan blamed Marcus for sending him into a trap. They haven't spoken directly in 15 years. But they both serve David now. They serve the crown. That's different. Roland's green eyes were sharp. Pretty, you need to understand that the unification is still fragile. David holds it together through strength and fear, but that's not sustainable forever. The kingdom needs something else to bind it. Like what? Like a queen who can bridge the divides, who can speak to wolves without the weight of history and blood feuds clouding every interaction. Roland studied her. You're Omega. In some ways, that's a weakness, but in others, it's an advantage. You have no pack loyalties pulling you one direction or another. You can be neutral ground. Pretty hadn't thought of it that way. So I'm supposed to be what? A mediator, a unifier. David brought the packs together through conquest. You could keep them together through diplomacy, compassion, wisdom. Roland leaned back in his chair. Of course, that requires you to survive long enough to gain their trust. Which brings us to today's lesson, identifying plots and conspiracies. The lesson that followed was disturbing in its thoroughness. Roland taught her to read body language, to spot wolves who were lying or hiding something. He explained the various factions within the court, who was allied with whom, which families had old grudges. Cassandra of the North is still bitter about David refusing her marriage proposal, Roland said. She'll likely try to undermine you through social channels, spreading rumors, organizing boycotts of events, turning other nobles against you. How do I fight that? You don't fight it directly. You undermine it by being likable, competent, visible. Show up to every event, treat everyone with respect, prove that the rumors are lies. Roland's expression softened slightly. Pretty, the court expects you to fail. They're waiting for you to make mistakes, to show you're not worthy. So don't give them ammunition. No pressure, Pretty muttered. Her training with David continued as well, though it evolved from pure combat technique to something more nuanced. He taught her how to project authority despite her Omega status, how to use body language to command attention, how to modulate her voice to be heard without shouting. You're never going to win through physical intimidation, David said during one session. So you need to master other forms of power. Presence, certainty, the ability to make wolves want to follow you. I don't know how to do that. Yes, you do. You did it at the trial when you addressed the court. You captured everyone's attention, made them listen. David circled her like a wolf studying prey. You have natural charisma, pretty. You just don't realize it yet because you've spent your life trying to be invisible. Being invisible kept me safe. And now you need to be visible to survive. It's a different skill set, but you can learn it. David stopped in front of her. Show me authority. Command me to kneel. Pretty blinked. What? I'm an unruly noble questioning your judgment. Make me submit. The exercise felt ridiculous, but Pretty tried. Kneel. David didn't move. That was a request, not a command. Again. Kneel. Pretty put more force behind it, but still David remained standing. You're asking permission. You need to expect obedience, not hope for it. David's eyes gleamed. Imagine I'm Marcus Thornhart, threatening you. What would you say? Anger sparked in Pretty's chest. The memory of that night, of Marcus's hand reaching for her throat. She channeled that anger into her voice. Kneel, she said, and this time it came out as a growl, backed by emotion and certainty. David smiled and dropped to one knee. There it is. That's your queen voice. Pretty stared at him, at the Alpha King kneeling before her, and felt something shift inside her. Power, yes, but also responsibility. If she could make David kneel with just her voice, what else could she do? Good, David said, rising. Remember that feeling. That's what you need to project when dealing with difficult wolves. The days blurred together in a haze of learning and preparation. Pania taught Pretty the intricate dance of court etiquette, which fork to use at formal dinners, how to greet visiting dignitaries, the proper forms of address for different ranks. She learned about fashion and jewelry, about the symbolic meanings of colors and styles. Red for strength and royalty, Pania explained, holding up a gown. Blue for wisdom and calm. White for purity, though that has fallen out of favor for queens after the last white queen turned out to be anything but pure. She smiled at Pretty's expression. Court history is full of scandals, miss. You'll learn them all eventually. Pretty also began meeting with the pack leaders individually again, this time with more confidence and knowledge. Alpha Donovan became an unlikely ally, appreciating her straightforward manner. Alpha Cassandra remained coldly polite, but seemed to thaw slightly when Pretty demonstrated knowledge of Northern Pack customs. But it was her meeting with Alpha Helena of the Mountain Pack that surprised Pretty most. Helena was a fierce warrior in her 50s, scarred from countless battles, with a reputation for brutality. Pretty had dreaded the meeting. Instead, Helena took one look at her and laughed. A genuine, warm sound. You're terrified of me, Helena said. Good. Fear means you're smart. Sit down, girl. Let's talk. Pretty sat, wary. Helena poured tea with hands that had killed countless enemies. I'm going to be honest with you, Helena said. I think David choosing an Omega mate is either the most brilliant thing he has ever done or the most foolish. Time will tell which. That's honest. I don't believe in pretty lies. They get you killed. Helena studied Pretty over her teacup. But I'll tell you something else. I like you. You've got spine. Most Omega wolves would have crumbled by now. You're still standing. Barely. Barely is enough. In war, I've seen wolves win battles they barely survived. What matters isn't how easy it is. It's whether you keep fighting. Helena set down her cup. I'm going to support you, Pretty. Not because of the mate bond or politics, but because I think you might actually be good for this kingdom. David is strong but cold. You have warmth. Together, you might balance each other. Pretty felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. That means more than you know. Don't thank me yet. I'm going to expect great things from you. Helena's smile turned fierce. Prove me right, girl. Become the queen this kingdom needs. As the mating ceremony drew closer, Pretty found herself growing more nervous. The ceremony itself was sacred, binding. It would complete the mate bond, merging their souls on a level beyond the physical. After it, she and David would be one in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. Are you scared? Pania asked one evening while helping Pretty prepare for bed. Terrified, Pretty admitted. What if I'm not enough for him? What if the full bond reveals that I'm not? Miss Pretty. Pania took her hands. The mate bond chose you for a reason. The moon doesn't make mistakes. Whatever fears you have, trust that you're meant to be his other half. That night, unable to sleep, Pretty wandered the palace halls. Her She found herself in the royal library, a massive room filled with books stretching up 3 stories. David was there, reading by lamplight. "Can't sleep either?" he asked, setting down his book. Pretty shook her head. "Too much in my mind." "Come here." David pulled her into his lap, wrapping his arms around her. "Talk to me. I'm scared of the ceremony, of disappointing you when the bond completes." David was quiet for a moment. "Pretty, do you know what I was doing the night I found you in the wrong seat? Attending the moon gathering, preparing to announce I'd never take a mate. I was going to declare the throne would pass to a chosen successor, not an heir, because I'd accepted I'd die alone." His arms tightened around her. "Then you sat in that seat, and everything changed. You've already given me more than I ever hoped to have. There's no way you could disappoint me. But what if?" "No what ifs." David turned her to face him. "Pretty, the mate bond is permanent. Once it completes, we're tied together for life. Our souls will recognize each other. There's no hiding, no pretending. And I want that. I want to know every part of you, the good and the bad, the strong and the weak. All of it." Pretty searched his face and found only sincerity. "You really mean that?" "I really mean that." He kissed her softly. "In 3 days, you'll be my queen in truth. And I'll be the luckiest wolf alive." They sat together in the quiet library, wrapped in each other's arms, and Pretty felt her fears ease. Not disappear. She was still terrified, but ease. Whatever came next, they'd face it together. The day of the mating ceremony dawned clear and bright, the moon still visible in the morning sky, a blessing, according to tradition. Pretty woke in David's arms, feeling the anticipation thrumming through their bond. "Today," David murmured, pressing a kiss to her temple. "Are you ready?" "No," Pretty said honestly, "but I'm doing it anyway." He laughed, the sound warm. "That's my queen." The ceremony would take place at moonrise in the sacred grove north of the palace, the same place where David had been crowned Alpha King 15 years ago. All the packs would attend, making it the largest gathering since the unification. Security was intense. David had stationed guards along every road, posted watchers in the trees, and personally vetted everyone who'd be in attendance. "No one is going to ruin this day," he'd promised grimly. "Anyone who tries will answer to me." Pania spent hours preparing Pretty, helping her into a gown of white silk embroidered with silver thread that caught the light like starshine. Her hair was arranged in an elaborate style woven with moonstones and winter roses. When she looked in the mirror, Pretty barely recognized herself. "You're beautiful, miss," Pania said, her eyes bright with tears. His Majesty won't be able to look away. A knock at the door announced Roland's arrival. "It's time," he said. "The procession is ready." Pretty's stomach flipped. "Already? You'll be fine." Roland's expression was warmer than she'd ever seen it. "You've survived everything the court threw at you. One ceremony won't break you." The procession to the sacred grove was elaborate. Pretty rode in a carriage pulled by white horses, with David riding alongside on a massive black stallion. Guards lined the route, and wolves from every pack had gathered to watch. Some cheered, some stared in silence, but all acknowledged the significance of the moment. The sacred grove was beautiful. Ancient trees formed a natural cathedral, their branches draped with flowering vines. At the center stood a stone altar older than any pack, carved with symbols of the moon. The crowd filled every available space. Thousands of wolves gathered to witness their king's mating. David helped Pretty from the carriage, his hand warm and steady in hers. "Breathe," he whispered. "Just focus on me." The ceremony was conducted by Elder Marius, the oldest wolf in the kingdom and keeper of ancient traditions. He spoke in the old tongue first, words that hummed with power, then repeated the ceremony in the common language. "We gather under the moon's eye to witness the joining of true mates," Marius intoned. "Alpha King David Nightshade and Pretty of Ashwood Pack, chosen by the moon herself. This bond is sacred, eternal, unbreakable. Do you both enter into it freely and with full understanding?" "I do," David said, his voice carrying across the grove. Pretty swallowed. "I do." "Then let the marking begin." This was the part Pretty had been dreading. The marking was primal, ancient. David would bite her neck, and she would bite his, mingling their blood and completing the bond. It would hurt. It would be intimate and raw and witnessed by thousands. David stepped closer, cupping her face. "Trust me," he whispered. Then louder, for the crowd. "I claim this woman as my true mate, my equal, my queen." Let all wolves bear witness. He bent to her neck, and Pretty felt his teeth graze her skin. Then he bit down, and pain exploded through her, sharp and burning and somehow right. She gasped but didn't cry out. Through the pain, she felt the bond surge, deepening, becoming something more. When David pulled back, blood marked his lips. His eyes had gone full wolf amber, wild and possessive. "Now you," Marius said to Pretty. Pretty looked at David's throat, at the pulse beating there. She'd never bitten anyone in her life. But instinct guided her, her omega wolf rising to meet his alpha. She stood on her toes, found the junction of his neck and shoulder, and bit down. David groaned, his hands coming up to grip her waist. Pretty tasted copper and salt, felt his power flooding into her through the bond. It was overwhelming, intoxicating, terrifying. She felt his emotions, love, pride, possessiveness, fear, hope, all tangled together and pouring into her. When she released him, the world tilted. The bond snapped fully into place, and suddenly Pretty could feel David as if he were part of her own body. His heartbeat matched hers. His breath synchronized with hers. They were two souls occupying separate bodies, but joined in every way that mattered. "The bond is complete," Marius announced. "I present to you King David Nightshade and Queen Pretty Nightshade, true mates blessed by the moon." The crowd erupted in cheers and howls. Wolves shifted and called to the rising moon, celebrating the completion of the sacred bond. Pretty swayed, overwhelmed by the sensation of David inside her mind, his presence a constant warmth. David steadied her, pulling her close. "I've got you," he murmured. "The bond takes time to adjust to. Just hold on to me." The feast that followed was a blur. Pretty sat beside David at the high table, trying to eat and smile and accept congratulations while her entire being was focused on the bond thrumming between them. She could feel David's concern for her, his pride in how she'd handled the ceremony, his desire barely held in check. "Is it always this intense?" she whispered to him during a lull in the celebration. "For the first few days, yes. Then you'll learn to control it, to set boundaries." David's hand found hers under the table. "But we'll always be able to feel each other's emotions, always know when the other is in danger or distress." "That's invasive. That's intimacy." David's eyes gleamed. "No more hiding, Pretty. I know everything you're feeling right now." Pretty flushed, aware that he could probably sense her own desire, her nervousness about the wedding night to come. "This is going to take getting used to. We have the rest of our lives." As the feast wound down, tradition demanded that the newly mated couple retire to the royal chambers. Pania had prepared the room. Flowers everywhere, candles burning, silk sheets turned down on the massive bed. It should have been romantic. Instead, Pretty felt paralyzed with nervousness. David seemed to sense it. He dismissed the servants who'd been waiting to attend them, then turned to face Pretty. "We don't have to do anything tonight," he said gently. "The bond is complete. That's what matters. But tradition, forget tradition. Pretty, look at me." When she did, his expression was so tender it made her heart ache. "I want you. I've wanted you since the moment the bond formed. But I want you willing and eager, not nervous and afraid. So we're going to take this at whatever pace you need." Relief flooded through Pretty, followed immediately by guilt. "I'm sorry. I know you've waited. And I can wait longer." David crossed to her, taking her hands. "Let's just sleep tonight. Get used to the bond. Tomorrow we can figure out the rest." They changed for bed, and Pretty found herself relaxing as they lay together in the darkness. David held her close, but made no demands, just offered warmth and comfort. "Thank you," Pretty whispered, "for understanding. Pretty, you're my mate. Understanding you is part of loving you." David pressed a kiss to her hair. "And I do love you. I know it's fast. I know the bond influences our emotions, but I love you anyway." Pretty's breath caught. She'd been feeling something similar. This overwhelming affection, this sense of rightness when she was with him. Was that love? Could you love someone you'd known for less than a month? But the bond didn't lie. She could feel David's emotions, and they were real, genuine, deep. And her own feelings, when she examined them honestly, were the same. "I love you too," she said, and felt his joy through the bond like sunshine. They fell asleep wrapped in each other, two souls finally complete, unaware that outside the palace walls, new threats were already gathering. Marcus and Rachel had been exiled, but others with ambition remained. And the sight of an Omega wearing the queen's crown had awakened something in the darker corners of the kingdom. Revolution was coming. War was brewing. And Pretty and David would need all the strength of their bond to survive what came next. Being queen, Pretty quickly discovered, was less about wearing crowns and more about endless meetings, document reviews, and navigating the treacherous waters of pack politics. Her days began before dawn and often stretched past midnight. Another petition from the Western Pack, Roland said, setting a stack of papers on her desk. They want permission to expand their territory into the neutral zone. Pretty rubbed her tired eyes. She'd been awake for 18 hours, and her head was pounding. Through the bond, she felt David's concern, but he was in his own meeting across the palace, dealing with border disputes. What does pack law say about neutral zones? Pretty asked. They're maintained as buffer territories to prevent conflicts. Allowing expansion would set a dangerous precedent. Roland leaned against her desk. But the Western Pack is overcrowded. They need space. Denying them could create resentment. So what do you suggest? I suggest you find a creative solution. That's what queens do. They find compromises that alphas are too proud to seek. Pretty studied the petition, an idea forming. What if we allowed limited expansion, but required them to establish a trade post accessible to all packs? That way they get space, but the neutral zone remains functionally neutral because all packs can use the facility. Roland blinked, then smiled. That's brilliant. It gives them what they want while maintaining the spirit of the law. How did you think of that? I grew up with nothing. You learn to share when resources are scarce, or everyone suffers. Pretty signed the approval with the modification. Send this to the Western Pack's Alpha. Tell him I expect the trade post to be functional within 6 months. As Roland left with the document, Pania entered with lunch. You need to eat, Your Majesty. And the Alpha King sent word that you're working too hard. The Alpha King can mind his own business, Pretty muttered, but she took the food gratefully. Through the bond, she felt David's amusement. I heard that, his voice echoed in her mind, a new development in their bond. They discovered they could communicate telepathically if they focused. Good. Stop worrying about me and focus on your own work. I'll stop worrying when you stop pushing yourself to exhaustion. Pretty smiled despite herself. The bond had its advantages and disadvantages. She loved feeling connected to David, loved knowing he was safe and well. But privacy was now a foreign concept, and hiding her emotions was impossible. The afternoon brought a different challenge, a meeting with the noble ladies of the court. These women held no official power, but wielded enormous social influence. If they accepted Pretty, others would follow. If they rejected her, she'd face a constant battle for legitimacy. Lady Cassandra hosted the gathering in her lavish suite, and Pretty arrived with Pania at her side, dressed in a gown of deep blue that Pania swore made her look regal. The room fell silent when she entered. A dozen women stared at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Your Majesty, Cassandra said, her tone perfectly polite and perfectly cold. How kind of you to join us. Please sit. The offered chair was positioned slightly lower than the others, another subtle power play. Pretty remained standing. Thank you for the invitation, Lady Cassandra, Pretty said, projecting the confidence David had taught her. I'm eager to know the women who form the heart of our court. The heart, one woman murmured. How poetic. Pretty recognized her, Lady Vera of the Eastern Pack, one of Rachel's former allies. The other women were a mix of pack nobles, all wealthy, all educated, all looking at Pretty like she was a curiosity to be examined. Yes, the heart, Pretty continued. You maintain the social structures, host the gatherings, form the connections that bind our packs together. That's power, even if it's not recognized officially. Cassandra's eyebrow arched. You acknowledge we have power? Of course. Only a fool would think otherwise. Pretty met her gaze steadily. Which is why I want to work with you, not against you. The kingdom needs unity. I can't achieve that alone. Pretty words, Lady Vera said. But what can an Omega possibly teach us about unity? You've spent your life as a servant. The insult was blatant, meant to provoke. Pretty felt her temper flare, but controlled it. You're right, she said calmly. I was a servant. I've scrubbed floors, served meals, endured insults from wolves who thought I was beneath them. And you know what I learned? I learned that everyone, regardless of rank, wants the same things. Respect, safety, a sense of belonging. If I can remember that, can treat each wolf I meet as worthy of dignity, maybe I can help heal the divisions that still exist in our kingdom. Silence followed her words. Then Lady Margot, an older woman from the northern pack, spoke up. "That's a noble sentiment, Your Majesty. But can you back it up with action?" "Test me," Pretty said simply. "Give me a problem you don't think I can solve, and let me prove myself." The women exchanged glances. Finally, Cassandra spoke. "Very well. The Harvest Festival is in 2 months. It's tradition for the packs to celebrate together, but for the past 5 years, it's been a disaster. The northern and western packs nearly came to blows last time. The southern pack boycotted the year before. If you can organize a festival that actually brings the packs together peacefully, we'll acknowledge you've earned your crown." Pretty's stomach sank. A massive public event with centuries of tradition, complicated pack politics, and the potential for violence? This was the test they chose. But she couldn't back down now. "I accept," Pretty said. "The Harvest Festival will be the best our kingdom has ever seen." After the meeting, Pretty returned to find David waiting in their chambers. He pulled her into his arms immediately. "That was reckless," he said, having felt everything through the bond. "The Harvest Festival is a nightmare, even in good years." "Why did you agree?" "Because I need to prove myself. And because if I can't organize one festival, how can I rule a kingdom?" Pretty pulled back to look at him. "David, I need this. I need to show the court I'm more than just your mate." David sighed. "I know, and you're right. But Pretty," his expression grew serious. "There are wolves who will try to sabotage you. The festival is a perfect opportunity for your enemies to humiliate you publicly. Then we'll have to make sure they fail." Pretty managed to smile. "You believe in me, right?" "Always. But I'm also realistic about the dangers. So help me. We'll plan this together." Over the following weeks, Pretty threw herself into festival planning. She met with representatives from each pack, asking about their traditions and what would make them feel welcome. She listened to old grievances and tried to find compromises. She worked with the palace staff to plan food, entertainment, decorations. It was exhausting, frustrating work. The northern pack wanted the festival held at noon, the western pack wanted evening, and no one wanted to compromise. The southern pack demanded certain foods that the eastern pack found insulting. Every decision seemed designed to spark conflict. But slowly, painfully, Pretty found solutions. She scheduled activities throughout the day so packs could attend when they preferred. She created separate food areas, but encouraged mixing by hosting competitions and games that required inter-pack cooperation. Roland watched her work with approval. "You're a natural diplomat," he said one evening. "You see connections others miss." "I just remember what it's like to be an outsider," Pretty replied. "These packs have been fighting for so long, they've forgotten how to just exist together peacefully. Someone needs to remind them." As the festival drew closer, Pretty noticed something troubling. Supplies kept going missing. Decorations would vanish. Food orders would be mysteriously canceled. Performers would back out at the last minute. Small sabotages that added up to significant problems. Someone was definitely trying to make her fail. "It's probably Vera," David said when Pretty mentioned it. "She was Rachel's closest ally. She wants revenge. Can you prove it?" "Not yet, but I'm watching her." David's eyes darkened. "If she's responsible, she'll pay." The night before the festival, Pretty couldn't sleep. Too much could go wrong. Despite all her planning, all her compromises, one incident could destroy everything. She stood on the balcony of their chambers, looking out over the palace grounds where final preparations were underway. David joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "You've done everything you can," he murmured. "The rest is up to fate. What if it's not enough? What if I've failed before I've even begun? Then you'll try again." "But Pretty, you haven't failed. I've watched you these past weeks. You've accomplished what I couldn't. You've made the packs talk to each other, work together. Whatever happens tomorrow, you've already succeeded." Pretty leaned back against him, drawing comfort from his solid presence. "I love you. I love you too. Now come to bed. You need rest." But rest didn't come easily. Pretty tossed and turned, her mind spinning with last-minute details and worst-case scenarios. Through the bond, she felt David's steady calm, his unshakable faith in her. "Sleep," he commanded gently through their mental link. "I've got you. Nothing bad will happen while I'm watching over you." The promise, backed by the mate bond, finally let Pretty relax enough to drift off. She woke to chaos. The morning of the Harvest Festival dawned with screaming. Pretty bolted upright in bed, her heart racing. Through the bond, she felt David's instant alertness, his power flooding the room as he assessed the threat. "What's happening?" Pretty asked, already moving toward the door. "Stay here. David shifted partially, his eyes gone wolf amber. Something's wrong. But Pretty didn't stay. She followed him into the hallway where guards were running, where servants stood frozen in shock. They burst onto the main balcony overlooking the festival grounds and stopped dead. The carefully prepared grounds were destroyed. Decorations hung in tatters. Food stations had been overturned, their contents mixed with dirt and worse. And written in what looked horribly like blood across the main pavilion were words that made Pretty's stomach drop. Omega Queen equals Omega Kingdom. The weak will fall. No, Pretty whispered. Weeks of work, ruined in one night. David's rage flooded through the bond, so intense Pretty staggered. Who did this? He snarled at the nearest guard. Who was on watch? Your Majesty, we don't know. The guards were found unconscious. We're still trying to wake them. Find out. Now. David turned to Pretty, and she saw murder in his eyes. This is an attack on you. On the crown. Whoever did this will die screaming. But Pretty was already thinking past the rage, past the horror. The festival was supposed to start in 4 hours. Wolves from every pack were already arriving. If they saw this, if the festival was canceled, she would be seen as a failure. The court would turn on her completely. We're not canceling, Pretty said suddenly. David stared at her. What? We're not canceling the festival. We're going to clean this up and proceed as planned. Pretty's mind raced. David, don't you see? This is exactly what they want. For me to fail publicly, to prove I'm not strong enough to be queen. If we cancel, they win. Pretty, there's no way to clean this up in 4 hours. Then we make it 3 hours and use every servant, guard, and able-bodied wolf in the palace. We work together. Pretty's voice gained strength. And we turn this attack into proof that we can't be broken. That an Omega Queen makes the kingdom stronger, not weaker. Roland appeared, surveying the damage with a grim expression. It's bad, Your Majesty, but not impossible. If we mobilize everyone, if we're creative, do it, David said, still looking at Pretty with something like awe. Pull every resource we have. The festival will proceed. What followed was controlled chaos. Pretty organized teams, cleaning crews, decoration teams, food preparation groups. She worked alongside servants, not above them, her hands getting dirty as they scrubbed away the hateful message. David used his alpha power to command loyalty and effort from wolves who might have hesitated. Pania proved invaluable, directing the decoration teams with military precision. Those banners are crooked. The Northern Pack's colors need to be the same height as the Western Pack's. No favoritism. As word spread of what had happened, something unexpected occurred. Wolves from the visiting packs began volunteering to help. Alpha Donovan showed up with his entire entourage, rolling up his sleeves to move tables. Alpha Helena arrived with food from her pack supplies to replace what had been ruined. Heard you had some trouble, Helena said gruffly to Pretty. Figured you could use the help. Pretty felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've still got 3 hours of work ahead of us. They made it with 20 minutes to spare. The grounds weren't perfect. Some decorations were simpler than planned. Some areas still showed signs of damage. But they were functional, welcoming, and most importantly, unified. Wolves from different packs had worked side by side to make it happen. When the first official guests arrived, Pretty stood beside David at the entrance, her dress hastily changed, her hair somewhat presentable. She was exhausted, her hands aching, but she smiled. Welcome to the Harvest Festival, she said. We're honored to have you. The festival itself was tense at first. Wolves mingled warily, old rivalries simmering beneath polite conversation. But Pretty had planned for this. She organized games that required inter-pack cooperation. Relay races where teams had to include members from at least 3 different packs. Cooking competitions where judges came from different territories. Storytelling circles where each pack shared their legends. Slowly, gradually, the atmosphere changed. Wolves who'd been enemies began laughing together over shared jokes. Pups from different packs played together, supervised by adults who chatted more easily than they had in years. Pretty moved through the crowd, making sure to speak with everyone, to make each wolf feel seen and valued. She praised the Northern Pack's decorative contributions, thanked the Southern Pack for their musical performance, admired the Western Pack's craftsmanship in the competition pieces. You're doing it, David said through their bond. You're actually bringing them together. Don't jinx it. We still have hours to go. But Pretty felt hopeful. Maybe this would work. Maybe she could prove. A scream cut through the festival noise. Pretty ran toward the sound, David at her side. They found a crowd gathered around one of the food stations. A young wolf, couldn't be more than 16, lay on the ground, convulsing, foam at his lips. "Poison," someone shouted. "The food's been poisoned." Panic rippled through the crowd. Wolves backed away from the food stations. Parents grabbed their pups. Hands went to weapons. The fragile peace shattered in an instant. "Everyone stay calm." David's alpha command boomed across the grounds. "Nobody eats anything until we determine what happened. Healers, to me now." But the damage was done. Wolves were shouting accusations at each other. The northern pack blamed the western pack for the food preparation. The eastern pack suggested this was all a plot by the Omega Queen to weaken them. Pretty felt the situation spiraling out of control. She looked at the convulsing boy, at the terrified faces, at the unity she'd worked so hard to build crumbling around her. Then she made a decision. She grabbed food from the nearest station, the same station the boy had eaten from, and before anyone could stop her, she took a large bite. "What are you doing?" David roared, lurching toward her. Pretty swallowed, her heart hammering. If the food was poisoned, she might die. But if she didn't take this risk, the festival was over, her credibility destroyed. "Proving a point," she said loudly, so everyone could hear. "If our food is poisoned, I'll suffer the same fate as this young wolf. If it's not, then this was a targeted attack on one individual, not a plot against the festival." The crowd went silent, watching her. Pretty felt David's terror through the bond, his desperate need to make her vomit up what she'd eaten. But she also felt his understanding. This was the only way. Minutes passed. Pretty remained standing, showing no signs of illness. The boy on the ground had stopped convulsing, the healers working frantically to save him. "The food is safe," Pretty announced. What happened to this young wolf was a deliberate poisoning, meant to destroy this festival and divide us further. Don't let the cowards who did this win. Don't let them turn us against each other. That's exactly what they want. She turned to face the crowd fully. "I know many of you doubt me. An Omega Queen seems impossible, wrong even. But I'm standing here anyway, having just eaten potentially poisoned food, because I believe in what we're building. I believe we can be more than separate packs barely tolerating each other. We can be a true kingdom, stronger together than apart." Her voice rang out across the grounds. "So I'm asking you. No, I'm begging you. Don't let hatred and fear win. Stay, celebrate together. Show whoever did this that we're stronger than their poison." For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Alpha Donovan stepped forward. "The girl's right," he said gruffly. "I'm staying. And any wolf from my pack who leaves is a coward." Helena joined him. "The mountain pack stands with the queen." One by one, the other alphas pledged to stay. The festival resumed, quieter than before, more serious, but it resumed. Wolves who'd been on the verge of violence found themselves sharing food again, telling stories, rebuilding the fragile connections. The boy survived, thanks to the healer's quick work. He was from the Western Pack, and his grateful parents swore loyalty to Pretty on the spot. By the time the festival ended at moonrise, Pretty was swaying with exhaustion. David had to practically carry her back to their chambers. "That was the bravest and most foolish thing I've ever seen," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "You could have died, Pretty. The food could have been poisoned. But it wasn't, and we had to show unity." Pretty leaned against him. "Did it work? Did I prove myself?" "You proved yourself 10 times over. Every wolf at that festival saw their queen risk her life for them. Pretty, you've done what I couldn't do in 15 years. You made them actually care about each other. It's not over. Whoever poisoned that boy is still out there. Whoever destroyed the grounds this morning will be found and punished. But tonight, just rest. You earned it." Pretty fell asleep within minutes, wrapped in David's arms, too exhausted even for nightmares. Through the bond, she felt his pride, his love, and his fierce determination to protect her from whatever came next. Because something was definitely coming. The attacks were escalating, becoming more bold. Someone wanted Pretty dead, and they weren't going to stop until they succeeded. The morning after the festival, Pretty woke to find David gone and a note on his pillow, meeting with Roland. "Stay with Pena. I love you." Pretty smiled at the note, but felt uneasy. Through the bond, she could sense David's tension, his barely controlled rage. Something had happened overnight. Pena arrived with breakfast and news. "Your Majesty, the Alpha King requests you don't leave your chambers today. There's been developments." "What kind of developments?" Pena hesitated. The guards found evidence of who destroyed the festival grounds. They're making arrests now. Pretty's stomach dropped. Who was it? I shouldn't say, miss. His Majesty wants to tell you himself. Pania, I'm the queen. Tell me. Pania squared her shoulders. It was Lady Vera, miss. And she wasn't working alone. They've arrested 12 nobles, all connected to the Eastern Pack. They're calling it a conspiracy. Pretty sank onto the. They found coded messages in his chambers. Communications with the Free Territories. Pania's face was stricken. Your Majesty, it looks bad. Pretty ran to the dungeons where Demon was being held. David was already there, his expression carved from stone. Is it true? Pretty demanded. Did you find evidence? See for yourself. Roland held out several pieces of parchment covered in coded text. We found these hidden in his room. When decoded, they detail security measures, your routines, everything the Shadowborn would need to plan an assassination. Pretty looked at Demon through the bars. He was pale, shaking his head desperately. I didn't write those, he said. Your Majesty, I swear on my life, I didn't betray you. Someone planted them in my room. How convenient. David's voice was cold. The traitor claims he was framed. Because I was. Your Majesty, think about it. Why would I be so obvious? Why leave evidence in my chambers where it could easily be found? Demon's eyes were wild with fear. I've spent months earning your trust. Why would I throw that away? Pretty wanted to believe him, but the evidence was damning. And yet, the timing is suspicious, she said slowly. We start actively hunting for the serpent, and suddenly we find obvious evidence pointing to Demon. It's too neat. Or it's justice, David countered. Pretty, I know you gave him a second chance, but maybe he never deserved it. Maybe he's been playing you all along. No, Pretty's voice was firm. I don't believe that. Someone is trying to frame him, to distract us from the real serpent. Or you're letting sentiment cloud your judgment. They argued, David wanting immediate execution, Pretty demanding more investigation. Finally, a compromise was reached. Demon would remain imprisoned until the spring festival was over. If no other evidence of the serpent emerged, his sentence would be carried out. I'm sorry, Pretty whispered to Demon before leaving. I'll find the real traitor. I promise. I know you will, Your Majesty. I trust you. Demon managed a weak smile. Even if your mate doesn't. The days before the festival were frantic. Pretty threw herself into investigation, re-examining everyone who had access to sensitive information. She interviewed servants, questioned guards, cross-referenced schedules. She was missing something. She knew she was missing something. The night before the festival, Pretty couldn't sleep. She paced their chambers while David watched with worried eyes. You're going to exhaust yourself, he said. I can't stop thinking about it. The serpent is someone we trust. Someone who's been close enough to gather intelligence for months without raising suspicion. Pretty ran her hands through her hair. Who has that kind of access? Who could move freely enough to? She stopped. An idea crystallized, terrible and impossible. Pretty. David stood. What is it? The messages found in Demon's room. Who found them? Roland's agents during a search. But who ordered the search? Who specifically pointed them to Demon's chambers? David's expression changed. Roland did. He said he'd been investigating everyone and found suspicious behavior from Demon. But what if Roland was covering his own tracks? What if he planted the evidence? Pretty's heart was racing. David, think about it. Roland has perfect access. He knows all our security, all our plans. He's your most trusted advisor. No one would suspect him. That's insane. Roland has served me for years. And how much do you really know about him? About his past, his true loyalties? Pretty grabbed David's arms. I'm not saying I'm right, but we need to investigate. What if the real serpent is using Demon as a scapegoat? David looked torn. Through the bond, Pretty felt his conflict, his trust in Roland warring with his inability to dismiss her concerns. We have one night, he said finally. One night to investigate Roland before the festival begins. If you're wrong, Pretty, then I'll apologize and never doubt him again. But if I'm right, we've just saved the kingdom. They spent the night secretly investigating Roland. David pulled records from the Royal Archive, documents about Roland's past, his history before joining David's service. Pretty searched his office while he slept, looking for anything suspicious. What they found was damning. Roland Blackwater wasn't his real name. He'd been born Roland Shadowcrest, member of a powerful family that had opposed the unification. His parents and siblings had died in the wars, killed by David's forces. He'd changed his name and infiltrated David's court, spending 15 years earning trust. Waiting. He's been planning this for over a decade. Pretty whispered, staring at the documents. Getting close, becoming indispensable. And when I appeared, when I became a target for every wolf opposed to change, he saw his opportunity. To kill you during the festival and make it look like the Shadowborn did it. Then in the chaos, assassinate me. David's face had gone white. Pretty, if you hadn't figured this out, but I did. Now we need to stop him. The problem was proof. The documents showed Roland's past, but not definitive evidence of current treason. They needed to catch him in the act. The festival, Pretty said. Let him try? We'll be ready. David hated the plan, but they had no choice. So the spring festival began with Pretty and David knowing a trusted friend planned to betray them, unable to act without solid proof. The festival was beautiful, flowers everywhere, music filling the air, thousands of wolves celebrating the coming of spring. Pretty moved through the crowd, hyper-aware of every face, every movement. Roland stayed close, playing his role perfectly. Your Majesty, the security teams are in position. You're completely protected. Thank you, Roland. Pretty smiled at him, hoping he couldn't tell she knew. I don't know what we'd do without you. You'll never have to find out. The words sent chills down her spine. As evening fell and the main ceremony began, Pretty stood on the central dais beside David. Roland was behind them, supposedly overseeing security. But Pretty could feel his eyes on her back, could sense his anticipation through years of predatory patience. David's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Through the bond, he sent reassurance and love. Whatever happens, I've got you. And I've got you. The attack came during the lighting of the ceremonial flames, a tradition where each pack alpha came forward to light a torch, symbolizing unity. The crowd was focused on the ritual, attention divided. Perfect timing for an assassination. Pretty felt movement behind her. Roland's presence, closer than it should be. She turned just as he drew a blade. Poisoned, she saw, coated in something dark and oily. I'm sorry, Roland said, and he actually sounded regretful. You're a good queen, better than I expected, but you're still an abomination, and I've waited too long for this moment. He lunged. Pretty dodged, but the platform was crowded with alphas, and she stumbled. Roland's blade swung toward her throat. David's hand shot out, catching Roland's wrist. You were like a brother to me, David said, his voice breaking. I trusted you. I know. I'm sorry for that too. Roland twisted, breaking David's grip with surprising strength. But I love my family more. Guards were converging, but not fast enough. Roland was too skilled, too fast. He drove toward Pretty with single-minded determination, accepting that he'd die if he could just complete his mission. Pretty shifted, her wolf form smaller and quicker. She darted between Roland's legs as he swung, then shifted back behind him. Before he could turn, she had a knife at his throat, a blade David had insisted she carry, just in case. Yield, she commanded, her queen voice echoing across the suddenly silent festival. Roland Shadowcrest, you are under arrest for treason. Roland froze. Then, slowly, he lowered his weapon. How did you know my real name? Because I'm not just the Alpha King's Omega mate anymore. I'm a queen who protects her kingdom. Pretty's blade didn't waver. Guards, arrest him. As Roland was taken away in chains, the festival crowd erupted in chaos. Pretty stood on the dais, shaking with adrenaline, and felt David's arms wrap around her. You did it, he murmured. You saved us all. We did it. Together. Pretty leaned into him. But David, Roland said something. He said he was sorry, that I was better than expected. What if there are others like him? Wolves who've been waiting years for revenge. Then we'll find them too. We'll keep fighting, keep building, keep proving that the kingdom is worth saving. David pulled back to look at her. Pretty, in the months since you became queen, you've survived assassination attempts, organized a successful festival under sabotage, unified the packs, showed mercy to enemies, and now exposed a traitor who'd fooled everyone for 15 years. You're not an Omega pretending to be queen anymore. You're just the queen. Pretty felt tears prick her eyes. I couldn't have done any of it without you. We saved each other. That's what mates do. The festival continued after order was restored, though the mood was more subdued. Wolves processed what had happened. Their trusted advisor revealed as a traitor, their Omega queen standing tall after nearly being assassinated. By the end of the night, something had shifted. The court that had doubted Pretty now looked at her with respect bordering on awe. She'd proven herself in every way that mattered. In the following days, Demon was released with apologies and a promotion. Pretty made him her official advisor, a position of real power. "You've earned it," she told him. "And I need someone I can trust absolutely." Roland was executed quietly, without ceremony. David offered him last words. "I don't regret trying," Roland said. "I regret failing. Your Omega Queen is stronger than I gave her credit for. Maybe strong enough to actually change things." He looked at Pretty. "I hope I'm wrong about you. I hope you don't destroy the kingdom. But if I'm right, if you do fail, remember that I tried to stop it because I loved these lands." "I'll remember," Pretty promised. "And I'll work every day to prove you wrong." After Roland's death, the kingdom seemed to exhale. The constant threat of betrayal from within had finally been eliminated, and wolves could focus on building rather than surviving. But Pretty knew better than to think they were safe. There were still enemies out there, still wolves who opposed change. The fight wasn't over. It would never truly be over. But for now, they had won. And that was enough. 2 months after Roland's execution, a messenger arrived at the palace under flag of truce. He was a free territory wolf, scarred and wild-looking, but he carried a letter sealed with wax Pretty didn't recognize. David opened it in the war room, Pretty and the pack alphas present. "It's from someone calling herself Lyra," David said, reading. "She claims to lead a faction within the free territories, wolves who want peace, who are tired of the chaos. She's offering an alliance." "It's a trap," Donovan said immediately. "Free territory wolves don't ally with anyone. They're savages." "Not all of them." Pretty took the letter, reading it herself. "She says she has information about a larger threat, a group called the Shadowborn who are planning to attack the kingdom. She wants to meet, to discuss mutual protection." "And you believe her?" Helena's tone was skeptical. "I think we should at least hear what she has to say." Pretty looked at David. "If there's a larger threat brewing, we need to know about it. And if she's genuine about wanting peace, we could gain valuable allies." The debate went on for hours. Some alphas argued for refusing, too dangerous, too risky. Others agreed with Pretty that they needed intelligence about potential threats. Finally, David made the decision. "We'll meet her, but on our terms, in a secure location, with overwhelming force nearby in case it's a trap." The meeting was arranged for neutral ground, an abandoned fortress on the border between Pact territory and the Free territories. David brought 50 warriors. Pretty insisted on coming, despite his protests. "If this woman wants to talk to the Queen, then the Queen needs to be there," she said firmly. They arrived at dawn, the fortress looming against the gray sky. The place was ancient, built during the territorial wars and abandoned when peace came. Now it served as a meeting ground for wolves who didn't quite trust each other. Pretty stood in the main hall with David and their guards. They waited. Then, as the sun crested the horizon, a figure appeared in the doorway. She was tall, elegant, with silver hair despite appearing only in her 40s. Her eyes were pale gray, almost colorless, and when she moved it was with a predator's grace. Power radiated from her, not alpha power exactly, but something else, something older. "Queen Pretty," the woman said, her voice melodious. "King David, thank you for meeting with me." "You're Lyra," Pretty said. "I am, and I come with information that will save your kingdom, if you're wise enough to listen." Lyra stepped fully into the hall, her hands visible and empty. "The Shadowborn are real. They're led by a wolf named Kalen Darkwater, and they have one goal: destroy the unified kingdom and return to the old ways of chaos and blood." "Why should we believe you?" David demanded. "Because I've lost everything to them." Lyra's expression hardened. "They killed my daughter when she tried to broker peace between factions. They burned my territory when I refused to join them. I want them destroyed as much as you do, but I can't do it alone." Pretty studied her, trying to sense deception. Through the bond, she felt David's wariness but also his grudging interest. "What are you proposing?" Pretty asked. "An alliance. My faction, 200 wolves who are tired of violence, will swear loyalty to your crown in exchange for protection and territory. In return, we'll give you intelligence about the Shadowborn, help you defend against their attacks, and fight alongside your warriors when the time comes." "And when will that be?" Helena asked sharply. "Soon. Within months. Kalen is gathering his forces, planning a massive assault. He wants to kill both of you, fracture the kingdom back into warring packs, and rule over the chaos." Lyra's eyes met Pretty's. "Your Majesty, you're his primary target. He sees you as the symbol of everything he hates, an omega elevated above her station, mercy shown to enemies, tradition overturned. He won't stop until you're dead. The words sent ice through Pretty's veins, but she kept her expression neutral. If we accept your alliance, what guarantees do we have of your loyalty? I'll submit to Alpha Command. I'll let you search my mind, verify my intentions, and I'll give you information right now that proves my value. Lyra pulled out a rolled parchment. This is a list of Shadowborn operatives currently within your kingdom, spies who've been gathering intelligence for months. David took the parchment, his expression darkening as he read. These are real names. Wolves I know, because the Shadowborn are patient. They've been infiltrating for years, waiting for the right moment to strike. Lyra's voice was urgent. Your Majesty, you've survived Marcus Thornheart, Rachel's conspiracies, and Roland's betrayal. But Kalen is different. He's older, smarter, more ruthless, and he has resources you can't imagine. Pretty exchanged a glance with David. Through the bond, she felt his calculation, weighing risk against benefit. We'll need time to verify this information, Pretty said. If it proves accurate, we'll discuss terms for an alliance. But Lyra, if this is a trap, if you're working with the Shadowborn, then you'll hunt me down and kill me. I understand. I'm willing to take that risk. Lyra bowed her head. I have nothing left to lose, Your Majesty. My daughter is dead, my territory destroyed. All I want is revenge against Kalen and a place for my surviving wolves to live in peace. The sincerity in her voice rang true, but Pretty had been deceived before. We'll be in touch, she said. After Lyra left, David's agents began investigating the names on her list. Within days, they'd arrested 3 Shadowborn spies, exactly where Lyra said they'd be. The intelligence she'd provided was accurate. She's telling the truth, Donovan reported during a council meeting. At least about the spies. Whether she's genuine about the alliance is another question. I think she is, Pretty said quietly. I saw her face when she spoke about her daughter. That kind of grief can't be faked. Grief can be a powerful motivator for revenge, Garrett pointed out. But it can also cloud judgment. What if she's playing us? Then we'll deal with her. But if she's genuine, we need allies who understand the free territories. Pretty looked around the table at the assembled alphas. The Shadowborn are coming whether we ally with Lyra or not. At least with her help, we'll know what we're facing. The debate continued, but eventually, the alphas agreed to offer Lyra an alliance, with strict conditions. Her wolves would be supervised, their movements monitored. Any sign of betrayal would result in immediate execution. Lyra accepted the terms without hesitation. Her faction arrived 3 weeks later, 200 wolves, as she'd promised. They were ragged, scarred, clearly veterans of countless battles. But they bowed to Pretty and David, swore oaths of loyalty, and followed orders without complaint. Helena, who'd been assigned to oversee their integration, reported back with grudging approval. They're working hard, following rules, no signs of trouble. Either they're extremely patient infiltrators, or they're genuinely seeking refuge. Keep watching them, David ordered. Trust takes time to build. Pretty agreed, but she also made efforts to welcome Lyra's wolves personally. She visited their settlement, spoke with them about their lives, their losses. She learned that many had families, pups who needed safety, elders who were tired of violence. Thank you for giving us a chance, one older female told Pretty, tears in her eyes. We've been running for so long. It's good to finally have a home. The words touched Pretty deeply. These wolves weren't monsters or infiltrators. They were refugees seeking safety. Just like she'd once been powerless and seeking a place to belong. Over the following months, Lyra proved invaluable. She provided detailed intelligence about Shadowborn movements, helped identify additional spies, and trained kingdom warriors in free territory fighting styles. She also became something unexpected, a friend. Pretty found herself confiding in Lyra during their strategy sessions, sharing fears and doubts she couldn't voice to anyone else. Do you ever wonder if you're making the right choices? Pretty asked one evening. Every day, Lyra admitted. I second-guess everything. But Pretty, you can't lead by committee. At some point, you have to trust your instincts and accept that some choices will be wrong. How do you live with the mistakes? By learning from them. By trying to do better next time. Lyra's expression was sad. I made mistakes with my daughter. I pushed her too hard, didn't see how fragile she was. By the time I realized, it was too late. That's a weight I'll carry forever. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Just be better than I was. Love your family while you have them. Build something that lasts. Lyra managed a small smile. You're doing it already. This kingdom you're creating, it's what my daughter dreamed of. Maybe through you, her dream lives on. The sentiment was beautiful and heartbreaking. Pretty reached out and squeezed Lyra's hand, a gesture of understanding and shared loss. But not everyone in the kingdom trusted the alliance. There were mutterings among some nobles that Pretty was being naive, that she was letting enemies into their home. The whispers grew louder when a warehouse fire destroyed supplies meant for the winter, suspected arson, though no proof was found. The people are nervous, Demon reported. They're wondering if the Free Territory wolves can be trusted. Some are calling for them to be expelled. Pretty knew she needed to address the concerns directly, so she called a public assembly, standing before hundreds of kingdom wolves with Lyra at her side. I know many of you are afraid, Pretty said, her voice carrying across the crowd. You're wondering if I've made a mistake bringing Free Territory wolves into our kingdom. But let me ask you this, what are we building here? A kingdom of walls and suspicion? Or a kingdom where any wolf, regardless of their past, can find redemption and belonging? She gestured to Lyra. This woman lost her daughter to violence. Her wolves lost their homes, their families. They came to us not as conquerors, but as refugees. And yes, accepting them is a risk. But everything worth doing involves risk. Pretty's gaze swept the crowd. I was Omega. According to tradition, I should never have been queen. Many of you thought I was a mistake, a weakness. But you gave me a chance anyway. You let me prove myself. All I'm asking is that we extend that same chance to wolves who want peace as much as we do. The crowd was silent, processing her words. Then, from the back, someone began to clap. Others joined in, slowly at first, then building to a crescendo of approval. Not everyone was convinced. Pretty could see skeptical faces, wolves who still doubted. But she'd made her case, and that was all she could do. As the assembly dispersed, Lyra approached her. Thank you, she said quietly, for defending us, for giving us a chance. Thank you for being worth defending, Pretty replied. Now help me prove the doubters wrong. Show them that your loyalty is real. We will, I promise. And as winter approached, bringing with it the threat of the Shadowborn's attack, Pretty found herself believing in that promise. Believing that even the most unlikely alliances could become real, that trust could be built from nothing, that mercy and strength could coexist. She'd need that belief in the months ahead, because Kaelin Darkwater was coming, and when he arrived, everything Pretty had built would be tested in blood and fire. The attack came on the winter solstice, when the night was longest and the kingdom's defenses were spread thin, protecting villages from the harsh weather. Pretty woke to bells ringing, the alarm that signaled invasion. Through the bond, she felt David's instant alertness, his power flooding the room as he assessed the threat. It's starting, he said grimly. Lyra was right. They're coming. They dressed quickly, donning armor and weapons. By the time they reached the war room, reports were flooding in, Shadowborn forces attacking on 3 fronts simultaneously, hitting villages in the eastern, western, and southern territories. It's exactly as we feared. Roland's replacement, a sharp-minded wolf named Marcus, no relation to the traitor, reported. They're forcing us to divide our forces. Your Majesty, we need to decide. Do we split up to defend all 3 fronts, or focus on one and accept losses elsewhere? David looked at Pretty, silently asking her opinion. We split up, Pretty said decisively. We can't abandon our people. David, you take the main force to the eastern territories. That's where the heaviest fighting is. Helena, you lead the defense of the west. Donovan, you have the south. I'll coordinate from here. No, David's voice was sharp. Pretty, you're not staying here alone. If Kaelin's real target is you, the palace might be next, which is why we need someone here to organize the defense if that happens. David, we don't have time to argue. The villages are burning right now. Go. Through the bond, Pretty felt David's conflict, his need to protect her warring with his duty to the kingdom. Finally, he nodded. Demon stays with you. And Lyra's wolves. If anything happens, you run. Promise me. I promise. Now go save our people. David kissed her fiercely, then left with his warriors. Pretty watched him go, fear and pride warring in her chest. The next hours were chaos. Reports came in from all 3 fronts. Battles were fierce, casualties mounting. The Shadowborn fought with desperate ferocity, knowing this was their last chance to destroy the kingdom. But the kingdom forces fought back with coordinated precision. Months of training, of building trust between packs, paid off as warriors who'd once been enemies fought side by side to defend their home. Pretty coordinated the defense from the war room, sending reinforcements where needed, tracking enemy movements. Demon worked beside her, his knowledge of Eastern Pact territories invaluable. Lyra provided intelligence about Shadowborn tactics, helping predict their next moves. They're trying to break through to the capital, Lyra said, studying the map. If they can reach the palace, kill you, they think the kingdom will collapse. Then we need to stop them before they get close. Pretty traced routes on the map. What if we send Lyra's wolves to intercept here at the mountain pass? It's the fastest route to the capital, and they know free territory fighting styles. You want me to fight my former neighbors, Lyra said slowly. I want you to defend your new home. Can you do it? Lyra met her eyes, then nodded. My wolves will hold that pass, or die trying. Don't die, just hold. Pretty squeezed her shoulder. We need you alive, Lyra. Lyra's forces deployed to the mountain pass, and for a while, the strategy seemed to be working. The Shadowborn were being pushed back on all fronts, their coordinated assault falling apart as kingdom forces adapted to their tactics. Then everything changed. A small group of Shadowborn warriors, only a dozen, but elite fighters, broke through the lines and headed straight for the palace. They moved with inhuman speed, arriving before reinforcements could respond. Pretty heard the attack before she saw it. Screams from the palace guards, the clash of weapons. She and Demon raced to the throne room, where palace defenders were being overwhelmed. Leading the attackers was a massive wolf with black fur and red eyes, Kalen Darkwater himself. He shifted to human form, and Pretty got her first good look at the Shadowborn leader. He was ancient, his face seamed with scars, but his eyes burned with unholy vitality. Power radiated from him, making even the strongest warriors step back. The Omega Queen, Kalen said, his voice like gravel. Finally, I've been looking forward to meeting you. Pretty shifted to her small gray wolf form, knowing she couldn't fight him in human form. Demon shifted too, positioning himself between her and Kalen. Such loyalty, Kalen mocked. The Omega has found a pet. How touching. But it won't save you. He moved with blinding speed, too fast for Pretty to track. Demon tried to intercept, but was batted aside like a pup, crashing into a wall with a sickening crunch. Kalen's claws were at Pretty's throat before she could react. Any last words before I end your pathetic reign? Kalen asked. Through the bond, Pretty felt David's answering roar of rage. He knew she was in danger, was racing back, but he was too far away. He'd never reach her in time. Pretty had seconds to live. She should have been terrified. Instead, she felt calm. She'd spent months learning to fight, to survive. David had trained her. She'd faced down assassins and conspirators. She'd earned her place as queen. She wasn't going to die here. Pretty shifted back to human, catching Kalen off guard. Before he could adjust his grip, she drove a concealed blade up under his ribs, a knife David had insisted she always carry, hidden in her armor. Kalen roared in pain, stumbling back. Pretty didn't give him time to recover. She grabbed a fallen guard's sword and pressed her attack, using speed and desperation against his superior strength. You're clever, Kalen panted, blocking her strikes. I underestimated you. That was a mistake. The last one you'll ever make. Pretty's voice was hard. They fought through the throne room, Pretty giving ground but staying alive. She just needed to last until David arrived, until reinforcements came. Then Lyra burst through the doors with her warriors. The pass is secure, she shouted. Then she saw Kalen and her face went white. No, not you. Anyone but you. Kalen's expression changed, recognition dawning. Lyra, I wondered where you disappeared to. So you've been hiding with these civilized fools. You killed my daughter, Lyra said, her voice shaking with rage. I killed a weak fool who thought peace was possible. She deserved to die. Kalen smiled cruelly. Just like you're about to. Lyra shifted, her wolf form smaller than Kalen's, but filled with fury. She attacked with everything she had, and Pretty joined her, the two of them coordinating attacks against the ancient enemy. Kalen was strong, but he was injured from Pretty's knife, and he was facing two determined opponents. The battle raged through the throne room, destroying furniture, cracking marble. Finally, working together, they brought him down. Lyra's jaws closed on his throat, while Pretty drove her sword through his heart. Kaelin Darkwater, leader of the Shadowborn, died as the winter sun began to rise. His remaining forces, learning of their leader's death, surrendered or fled. The assault had failed. The kingdom had survived. David returned to find Pretty covered in blood but alive, standing over Kaelin's corpse with Lyra at her side. "You killed him," he said, pulling her into his arms. "You killed the Shadowborn leader." "We killed him," Pretty corrected, gesturing to Lyra. "Together. Without her warriors at the pass, without her fighting beside me, we'd all be dead," Lyra finished quietly. She looked at Kaelin's body, and tears streamed down her face. "For my daughter." This was for her. Pretty embraced Lyra, the two women holding each other up. They'd been through hell together and survived. The aftermath of the battle took weeks to sort through. Casualties were counted, villages rebuilt, the scattered Shadowborn hunted down. Some were executed, others offered mercy if they surrendered and swore loyalty to the crown. Lyra's wolves, who'd proven their loyalty beyond doubt, were granted full citizenship and their supervision ended. They'd earned their place in the kingdom through blood and sacrifice. "You saved us," Pretty told Lyra during a quiet moment. "Without your warning, without your intelligence, we would have been caught unprepared. You saved me too, gave me and my wolves a home when we had nothing." Lyra's expression was peaceful in a way Pretty had never seen. "My daughter would have liked you. She'd have been proud of what we built together. Then let's keep building. For her. For all the wolves who deserve better than chaos and violence." "I'd like that." The kingdom celebrated their victory, but Pretty felt the weight of the lives lost. Good wolves had died defending their homes. Children had lost parents. The cost of peace had been high. "This is what ruling means," David told her one night as they stood on the balcony, looking out over the recovering kingdom. "Making decisions that cost lives. Living with the weight of those choices. How do you bear it? By remembering why we fight. By making sure their sacrifices meant something." David pulled her close. "Pretty, you've become everything I hoped you'd be and more. You're not just my mate anymore. You're my equal, my partner in all things. We're in this together. Always. Always." As winter gave way to spring, the kingdom healed. And Pretty realized something important. They'd won not just because they were strong, but because they'd built something worth defending. A place where any wolf could belong, where mercy and justice coexisted, where the old ways of blood and dominance were giving way to something better. It was what she dreamed of when she first sat in that wrong seat. And now, finally, it was real. Spring brought renewal to the kingdom, but it also brought a reckoning. The battle against the Shadowborn had cost dearly. Over 200 warriors dead, countless wounded, entire villages destroyed. Pretty spent weeks traveling to each affected territory, offering comfort to grieving families and organizing reconstruction efforts. "Your Majesty, you don't have to do this personally," Demon said as they prepared for another visit to a devastated Eastern Pack village. "You could send representatives. These wolves lost everything defending the kingdom. The least I can do is look them in the eye and thank them." Pretty's jaw was set. "I won't hide behind the crown, Demon. That's not who I am." The visits were heartbreaking. Pretty met widows whose mates had died in battle, pups who'd lost parents, elders who'd watched their homes burn. Each story cut deeper, adding to the weight of responsibility she carried. But something unexpected happened during these visits. The wolves she met didn't blame her. Instead, they thanked her for giving them something worth fighting for. "My son died defending this kingdom," one elderly female told Pretty, tears streaming down her weathered face. "But he died happy, Your Majesty. He told me before the battle that he was proud to fight for a queen who cared about all wolves, not just the strong ones. His death meant something. Don't you dare diminish that by feeling guilty." The words were both a comfort and a burden. Pretty promised herself that she would honor every sacrifice by continuing to build the kingdom they died defending. David noticed the toll the visits were taking on her. "You're carrying too much," he said one night, finding her awake and staring at casualty reports. "Pretty, you can't save everyone. You can't fix every hurt. I have to try. These wolves trusted me, David. They believed in what we were building. The least I can do is acknowledge their sacrifice." They found coded messages in his chambers, communications with the free territories. Painia's face was stricken. "Your Majesty, it looks bad." Pretty ran to the dungeons where Demon was being held. David was already there, his expression carved from stone. "Is it true? Pretty demanded, "Did you find evidence? See for yourself." Roland held out several pieces of parchment covered in coded text. "We found these hidden in his room. When decoded, they detail security measures, your routines, everything the Shadowborn would need to plan an assassination." Pretty looked at Demon through the bars. He was pale, shaking his head desperately. "I didn't write those," he said. "Your Majesty, I swear on my life, I didn't betray you. Someone planted them in my room." "How convenient." David's voice was cold. "The traitor claims he was framed. Because I was. Your Majesty, think about it. Why would I be so obvious? Why leave evidence in my chambers where it could easily be found?" Demon's eyes were wild with fear. "I've spent months earning your trust. Why would I throw that away?" Pretty wanted to believe him, but the evidence was damning. "And yet, the timing is suspicious," she said slowly. "We start actively hunting for the serpent, and suddenly we find obvious evidence pointing to Demon. It's too neat. Or it's justice," David countered. "Pretty, I know you gave him a second chance, but maybe he never deserved it. Maybe he's been playing you all along." "No." Pretty's voice was firm. "I don't believe that. Someone is trying to frame him, to distract us from the real serpent. Or you're letting sentiment cloud your judgment." They argued, David wanting immediate execution, Pretty demanding more investigation. Finally, a compromise was reached. Demon would remain imprisoned until the spring festival was over. If no other evidence of the serpent emerged, his sentence would be carried out. "I'm sorry," Pretty whispered to Demon before leaving. "I'll find the real traitor. I promise." "I know you will, Your Majesty. I trust you." Demon managed a weak smile. "Even if your mate doesn't." The days before the festival were frantic. Pretty threw herself into investigation, re-examining everyone who had access to sensitive information. She interviewed servants, questioned guards, cross-referenced schedules. She was missing something. She knew she was missing something. The night before the festival, Pretty couldn't sleep. She paced their chambers while David watched with worried eyes. "You're going to exhaust yourself," he said. "I can't stop thinking about it. The serpent is someone we trust. Someone who's been close enough to gather intelligence for months without raising suspicion." Pretty ran her hands through her hair. "Who has that kind of access? Who could move freely enough to?" She stopped. An idea crystallized, terrible and impossible. "Pretty." David stood. "What is it?" "The messages found in Demon's room." "Who found them?" "Roland's agents during a search." "But who ordered the search? Who specifically pointed them to Demon's chambers?" David's expression changed. "Roland did. He said he'd been investigating everyone and found suspicious behavior from Demon. But what if Roland was covering his own tracks? What if he planted the evidence?" Pretty's heart was racing. "David, think about it. Roland has perfect access. He knows all our security, all our plans. He's your most trusted advisor. No one would suspect him." "That's insane. Roland has served me for years. And how much do you really know about him? About his past, his true loyalties?" Pretty grabbed David's arms. "I'm not saying I'm right, but we need to investigate. What if the real serpent is using Demon as a scapegoat?" David looked torn. Through the bond, Pretty felt his conflict, his trust in Roland warring with his inability to dismiss her concerns. "We have one night," he said finally. "One night to investigate Roland before the festival begins. If you're wrong, Pretty, then I'll apologize and never doubt him again. But if I'm right, we've just saved the kingdom." They spent the night secretly investigating Roland. David pulled records from the Royal Archive, documents about Roland's past, his history before joining David's service. Pretty searched his office while he slept, looking for anything suspicious. What they found was damning. Roland Blackwater wasn't his real name. He'd been born Roland Shadowcrest, member of a powerful family that had opposed the unification. His parents and siblings had died in the wars, killed by David's forces. He'd changed his name and infiltrated David's court, spending 15 years earning trust. "Waiting. He's been planning this for over a decade," Pretty whispered, staring at the documents. "Getting close, becoming indispensable. And when I appeared, when I became a target for every wolf opposed to change, he saw his opportunity. To kill you during the festival and make it look like the Shadowborn did it. Then in the chaos, assassinate me." David's face had gone white. "Pretty, if you hadn't figured this out. But I did. Now we need to stop him." The problem was proof. The documents showed Roland's past, but not definitive evidence of current treason. They needed to catch him in the act. "The festival," Pretty said. "Let him try. We'll be ready." David hated the plan, but they had no choice. So the spring festival began with Pretty and David knowing a trusted friend planned to betray them, unable to act without solid proof. The festival was beautiful, flowers everywhere, music filling the air, thousands of wolves celebrating the coming of spring. Pretty moved through the crowd, hyper-aware of every face, every movement. Roland stayed close, playing his role perfectly. "Your Majesty, the security teams are in position. You're completely protected." "Thank you, Roland." Pretty smiled at him, hoping he couldn't tell she knew. "I don't know what we'd do without you. You'll never have to find out." The words sent chills down her spine. As evening fell and the main ceremony began, Pretty stood on the central dais beside David. Roland was behind them, supposedly overseeing security. But Pretty could feel his eyes on her back, could sense his anticipation through years of predatory patience. David's hand found hers, squeezing gently. Through the bond, he sent reassurance and love. "Whatever happens, I've got you. And I've got you." The attack came during the lighting of the ceremonial flames, a tradition where each pack alpha came forward to light a torch, symbolizing unity. The crowd was focused on the ritual, attention divided. Perfect timing for an assassination. Pretty felt movement behind her. Roland's presence, closer than it should be. She turned just as he drew a blade. Poisoned, she saw, coated in something dark and oily. "I'm sorry," Roland said, and he actually sounded regretful. "You're a good queen, better than I expected, but you're still an abomination. And I've waited too long for this moment." He lunged. Pretty dodged, but the platform was crowded with alphas, and she stumbled. Roland's blade swung toward her throat. David's hand shot out, catching Roland's wrist. "You were like a brother to me," David said, his voice breaking. "I trusted you. I know. I'm sorry for that too." Roland twisted, breaking David's grip with surprising strength. "But I loved my family more." Guards were converging, but not fast enough. Roland was too skilled, too fast. He drove toward Pretty with single-minded determination, accepting that he'd die if he could just complete his mission. Pretty shifted, her wolf form smaller and quicker. She darted between Roland's legs as he swung, then shifted back behind him. Before he could turn, she had a knife at his throat, a blade David had insisted she carry, just in case. "Yield," she commanded, her queen voice echoing across the suddenly silent festival. Roland Shadowcrest, "You are under arrest for treason." Roland froze. Then, slowly, he lowered his weapon. "How did you know my real name?" "Because I'm not just the Alpha King's Omega mate anymore. I'm a queen who protects her kingdom." Pretty's blade didn't waver. "Guards, arrest him." As Roland was taken away in chains, the festival crowd erupted in chaos. Pretty stood on the dais, shaking with adrenaline, and felt David's arms wrap around her. "You did it," he murmured. "You saved us all. We did it. Together." Pretty leaned into him. "But David," Roland said something. "He said he was sorry, that I was better than expected. What if there are others like him? Wolves who've been waiting years for revenge. Then we'll find them too. We'll keep fighting, keep building, keep proving that the kingdom is worth saving." David pulled back to look at her. "Pretty, in the 6 months since you became queen, you've survived assassination attempts, organized a successful festival under sabotage, unified the packs, showed mercy to enemies, and now exposed a traitor who'd fooled everyone for 15 years. You're not an Omega pretending to be queen anymore. You're just the queen." Pretty felt tears prick her eyes. "I couldn't have done any of it without you. We saved each other. That's what mates do." The festival continued after order was restored, though the mood was more subdued. Wolves processed what had happened. Their trusted advisor revealed as a traitor, their Omega queen standing tall after nearly being assassinated. By the end of the night, something had shifted. The court that had doubted Pretty now looked at her with respect bordering on awe. She'd proven herself in every way that mattered. In the following days, Demon was released with apologies and a promotion. Pretty made him her official advisor, a position of real power. "You've earned it," she told him. "And I need someone I can trust absolutely." Roland was executed quietly, without ceremony. David offered him last words. "I don't regret trying," Roland said. "I regret failing. Your Omega Queen is stronger than I gave her credit for. Maybe strong enough to actually change things." He looked at Pretty. "I hope I'm wrong about you. I hope you don't destroy the kingdom. But if I'm right, if you do fail, remember that I tried to stop it because I loved these lands." "I'll remember," Pretty promised. and I'll work every day to prove you wrong." After Roland's death, Lyra sent another letter. "Congratulations on exposing the serpent. I knew you could do it. Now, about my request for sanctuary." Pretty and David debated for weeks. Finally, they agreed to meet with Lyra again to discuss terms. "We'll be cautious," David promised. "But if she's genuine, having free territory wolves who want peace could strengthen us against the Shadowborn. And if she's not genuine, we'll deal with her like we dealt with Roland," Pretty said grimly. She'd learned something important in her months as queen. Mercy didn't mean being naive. Kindness didn't mean being stupid. She could believe the best in people while still preparing for the worst. That night, lying in David's arms, Pretty reflected on how far she'd come. From the terrified Omega who sat in the wrong seat to the queen who exposed a traitor and survived another assassination attempt. "I'm tired," she admitted quietly. "David, I'm so tired of the constant fighting." "I know. But Pretty, look at what you've accomplished. The kingdom is stronger now than it was 6 months ago. The packs trust each other more. Wolves who were enemies fight side by side. That's because of you. It's because of us." "Yes, us." David kissed her forehead. "We're going to keep building this, Pretty. One day at a time, one challenge at a time. And eventually, the threats will lessen. The peace will hold. And we'll have built something that lasts. Promise. I promise. Because giving up isn't an option. Not when we have so much to fight for." Pretty closed her eyes, drawing comfort from his presence and the bond between them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The Shadowborn were still out there, planning their attack. Lyra's wolves needed sanctuary. The kingdom still had wounds to heal. But tonight, she was alive. David was alive. The kingdom stood strong. And that would have to be enough. The meeting with Lyra to discuss sanctuary took place a month after Roland's execution. This time, it was held in the palace itself. A show of trust that made David nervous, but which Pretty insisted upon. "If we're going to accept her wolves, we need to show we're not afraid," Pretty argued. "Or we're walking into a trap in our own home," David countered. In the end, they compromised. Lyra would be allowed into the palace with a small guard, while David stationed warriors throughout the building, ready to respond to any threat. Lyra arrived at dawn, accompanied by 5 wolves, 3 women and 2 men, all carrying themselves with quiet dignity. They were clearly warriors, scarred and hardened, but they weren't hostile, just watchful. Pretty received them in the throne room, David at her side. The pack alphas had been invited to witness. This was too important a decision to make without their input. "Lyra," Pretty greeted. "Welcome to Silvermoon Palace." "Your Majesty, Your Majesty." Lyra bowed to both Pretty and David. "Thank you for receiving us. Let's get to business," Helena said bluntly. "You want sanctuary. What are you offering in return?" Lyra didn't seem offended by the directness. "Information, first. Everything we know about the Shadowborn. Their numbers, their locations, their leaders. Second, warriors. My faction numbers 200 wolves, all trained and experienced. Third, loyalty. We're willing to swear oaths to the crown, to become part of your kingdom rather than refugees hiding in it." "And in exchange?" Donovan asked. "Land to settle on. Nothing extravagant. Territory currently unused, where we can build homes and lives. Protection under kingdom law. And the right to maintain some of our free territory traditions, as long as they don't conflict with your laws." Pretty glanced at David, then at the assembled alphas. Through the bond, she felt David's calculation, weighing risks against benefits. "If we accept," Pretty said carefully, "you and your wolves would be subject to kingdom law. Any crime would be punished as it would be for any pack wolf. You'd owe taxes, military service when called upon, and absolute loyalty to the crown. Can you accept those terms?" "We can." Lyra's pale eyes were steady. "Your Majesty, we're not asking for special treatment. We're asking for a chance to be part of something stable. To raise pups without fearing they'll die in territorial disputes. To live as wolves, not as savages." Pretty words. Alpha Garrett of the Eastern Pack spoke up. "But how do we know you're not Shadowborn yourself? This could be a ploy to get inside our borders." "It could," Lyra agreed. "Which is why I'm willing to submit to any test you require. Truth serums, bond magic, interrogation under Alpha command. Whatever it takes to prove my sincerity." The offer was bold. Most wolves would never submit to Alpha command willingly. It was deeply invasive, humiliating. That Lyra offered it voluntarily spoke to either genuine desperation or incredible deception. I have a better test, Pretty said suddenly. Tell us about the Shadowborn. Everything you know. If your information helps us stop them, that's proof enough of your intentions. Lyra nodded. The Shadowborn are led by a wolf named Kalen Darkwada. He's old, over 100 years, and powerful. He believes that civilization weakens wolves, that we should return to the old ways when only the strong survived. He's gathered followers who feel displaced by the unification, who think the kingdom has made them soft. How many? David demanded. At least 500 warriors. Maybe as many as 800. They're spread throughout the free territories, organized in cells. Kalen moves between them, coordinating attacks and keeping them unified around his vision. Which is, Helena asked, to destroy the kingdom from within. Kill the Alpha King and the Omega Queen, fracture the packs back into warring factions, restore chaos. Lyra's expression darkened. He's particularly focused on Pretty. He sees her as a symbol of everything wrong with the kingdom, weakness elevated, tradition overturned, the natural order disrupted. Pretty felt cold. When is he planning to attack? Soon, within the next 2 months. He was waiting to see what happened with Roland. Now that the serpent's been exposed, Kalen will move to direct assault. He won't be subtle like Marcus or Roland. He'll come with overwhelming force, trying to crush you in a single battle. Where? David's voice was hard. I don't know the exact location, but I know his strategy. He plans to lure you out of the palace, away from your strongest defenses. He'll threaten civilians, probably attack multiple villages simultaneously. When you split your forces to respond, he'll strike at whatever group you're with. Silence fell over the throne room as the Alphas absorbed this information. This matches intelligence we've gathered independently, Donovan said slowly. We've had reports of free territory wolves massing near our borders. We thought they were just raiders. They're scouts, Lyra said. Finding the best approach routes, identifying weak points. Kalen's been planning this for over a year. He's not going to fail through poor preparation. Pretty looked at David, then at the Alphas. We need to decide. Do we accept Lyra's wolves? I say yes, Helena declared. 200 trained warriors is nothing to dismiss. And if the information about the Shadowborn is accurate, we need every advantage. I agree, Donovan added. But with conditions. Lyra's wolves settle in supervised territory. They're watched for the first year. Any hint of betrayal, and the entire arrangement ends. The other Alphas nodded agreement. Pretty turned to David, silently asking for his opinion through the bond. I don't trust her completely, but I think she's telling the truth about the Shadowborn, and we need the numbers. So we accept? With heavy supervision. And Pretty, if this goes wrong, if they betray us, it's on my conscience, not yours. It's on both of ours. We're in this together. Pretty stood, her decision made. Lyra, we accept your offer. Your wolves will be settled in the Western Territories, under the supervision of Alpha Helena's pack. You'll swear oaths of loyalty to the crown, submit to regular inspections, and prove your worth through service. Betray us, and you'll face the same justice as any traitor. Are these terms acceptable? Lyra dropped to one knee, her guards following suit. They are, Your Majesty. We swear by the moon and stars to serve the crown faithfully. We pledge our strength, our loyalty, and our lives to the kingdom. The oath echoed through the throne room, witnessed by the assembled Alphas. It was binding in the way only wolf oaths could be. Breaking it would cost Lyra and her wolves their very souls. Then rise, David commanded. Welcome to the kingdom. May your service bring honor to your name and strength to our lands. The ceremony concluded with formal documents signed and sealed. Lyra's wolves would be escorted to their new territory immediately, with Helena's pack overseeing their integration. As Lyra prepared to leave, Pretty pulled her aside. You said I reminded you of someone, Pretty said quietly. Who? Lyra's expression grew distant, sad. My daughter. She was Omega, like you. Sweet, compassionate, always believing the best in people. She thought she could broker peace between warring factions in the free territories. Instead, they killed her for her weakness. I'm sorry. I was angry for so long. Thought she'd been a fool. That compassion was weakness. Lyra met Pretty's eyes. But watching you, seeing what you've accomplished, maybe she wasn't wrong. Maybe compassion can be strength if you're smart about it. If you balance it with caution. Is that why you're really here? Not just for sanctuary, but to finish what your daughter started. Lyra smiled slightly. Perhaps. Or perhaps I'm just a tired, old wolf looking for a place to rest. Does it matter? Not if you're genuine about serving the kingdom. Then judge me by my actions, not my words. Lyra bowed. Thank you, Your Majesty, for the chance my daughter never got. After Lyra left, Pretty and David retreated to their chambers. The stress of the meeting had exhausted them both. That was risky, David said, pulling Pretty into his arms. We just accepted 200 potential enemies into our kingdom. Or 200 allies. Time will tell. Pretty leaned against him. David, do you think Kalen will really attack within 2 months? If Lyra's information is accurate, yes. Which means we need to prepare. Fortify the villages most likely to be targeted, position warriors strategically, make sure we can respond quickly to multiple threats. It's exhausting. The constant preparation, the endless threats. Pretty's voice was small. Sometimes I wonder if it will ever end. It will. Maybe not soon, but eventually the wolves who oppose us will realize they can't win. That the kingdom is stronger united than divided. Until then, David tilted her face up. We keep fighting. Together. Pretty kissed him, drawing strength from the bond between them. They'd survived so much already. They could survive this too. Over the following weeks, the kingdom prepared for war. Villages were fortified, warriors trained, supplies stockpiled. Lyra's wolves proved their worth immediately, sharing tactical knowledge about Shadowborn fighting styles and weaknesses. Helena reported that Lyra's faction was integrating well. They're keeping their word, she told Pretty during a strategy meeting. Working hard, following orders, no signs of sedition. Either they're genuinely loyal or they're playing a very long game. We'll know soon enough, Pretty said grimly. When Kalen attacks, we'll see whose side they're really on. The attack came 6 weeks later, exactly as Lyra had predicted. Multiple villages hit simultaneously, forcing David to split his forces. Pretty wanted to go with him, but David refused. You need to stay at the palace, he insisted. Coordinate the response, manage the alphas. I need you here safe. David, please. His voice cracked. Pretty, I can't fight effectively if I'm terrified you're going to get killed. Let me handle the field while you handle strategy. Pretty hated it, but she understood. So she stayed at the palace, working from the war room, receiving reports and issuing orders. Demon helped, his knowledge of Eastern Pact territories proving valuable in predicting Shadowborn movements. The battle lasted 3 days. The Shadowborn hit hard, but the kingdom forces were ready. Pack warriors fought with coordinated precision, and Lyra's wolves proved their loyalty by defending villages with the same ferocity as native pack members. By the 3rd day, the Shadowborn began to retreat. They'd lost over half their numbers, and Kalen himself had been wounded in combat with David. They're pulling back to the free territories, a scout reported. Should we pursue? No, Pretty decided. We've defended our lands. That's enough. Let them retreat and lick their wounds. David returned battered but victorious. Pretty threw herself into his arms, relief flooding through the bond. I'm okay, he murmured. We won, Pretty. The Shadowborn are broken. For now, but Kalen escaped. He'll rebuild, come at us again. Then we'll defeat him again. As many times as it takes. David pulled back to look at her. Pretty, Lyra's wolves fought brilliantly. They saved an entire village that would have fallen otherwise. She's proven her loyalty. Pretty felt vindication and relief. Her gamble on trusting Lyra had paid off. A week after the battle, Pretty held a ceremony honoring the wolves who'd fought. Pack warriors and Lyra's faction stood together as Pretty recognized their courage. You've proven that the kingdom is stronger together, she told them. That wolves from different backgrounds, different packs, even different territories can unite for a common cause. You've shown that our future is bright, that what we're building will last. The warriors howled their approval, the sound echoing across the palace grounds. And standing in the crowd, Pretty saw Lyra, tears streaming down her face as she watched the ceremony. Later, Lyra approached Pretty privately. Thank you, she said simply, for believing in us, for giving us the chance my daughter dreamed of. You earned it by keeping your word. Pretty smiled. Lyra, I want to offer you something. A position as advisor on free territory affairs. Your insight has been invaluable. Lyra looked stunned. Your Majesty, you've proven your loyalty. Now I want to formalize your role in the kingdom. Pretty's expression grew serious. We're going to face more challenges from the free territories. I need someone who understands that world, who can help me navigate it. Will you accept? Yes, Lyra said, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, Your Majesty. I'll serve faithfully." That night, as Pretty and David prepared for bed, she felt content for the first time in months. "We're actually doing it," she said. "Building something that lasts. The packs are united. We've integrated free territory wolves. We've defeated multiple threats." "We are," David agreed. "But Pretty, you know this isn't over. Kalen will return. Marcus might try again. There will always be wolves who oppose us." "I know. But for tonight, can we just celebrate the victory? Can we just be us?" David smiled, pulling her close. "For tonight, we can be us." They fell asleep wrapped in each other, the bond humming between them with warmth and love. Outside, the kingdom rested, stronger than it had ever been. But in the free territories, Kalen Darkwater nursed his wounds and plotted revenge. He'd underestimated the Omega Queen once. He wouldn't make that mistake again. Spring turned to summer, and the kingdom enjoyed a period of relative peace. The Shadowborn remained quiet, apparently licking their wounds after their defeat. Lyra's wolves integrated fully into kingdom life. Their initial territory restrictions lifted after proving their loyalty. Trade flourished between packs, and Pretty found herself dealing more with domestic policy than constant survival. It should have been a relief. Instead, Pretty felt restless. "Something's wrong," she told Pania one morning. "It's too quiet." "Maybe nothing's wrong," Pania suggested gently. "Maybe you've earned some peace, Your Majesty." But Pretty couldn't shake the feeling. Through the bond, she felt David's similar unease. They'd been fighting for so long that peace felt unnatural, like the calm before a storm. The storm came in the form of a messenger from the free territories, arriving under flag of truce. He carried a letter sealed with the Shadowborn's mark, a broken moon. David opened it in front of the assembled court, his expression growing darker with each line. "Kalen is challenging me," he said finally. "Single combat, to be witnessed by both the kingdom and free territory wolves. If I win, the Shadowborn will disband and swear loyalty to the crown. If he wins, you die and the kingdom falls into chaos." Pretty finished, her voice tight. "It's a trap, David. You can't accept. I have to. If I refuse, I look weak. Other free territory wolves will join the Shadowborn, emboldened by my cowardice. But if I fight and win, we could end this threat permanently." The court erupted in debate. Some alphas argued for accepting. Single combat was honorable, traditional. Others insisted it was too dangerous, that Kalen would cheat somehow. Pretty felt sick. Through the bond, she felt David's determination. He was going to accept, regardless of what anyone said. "When?" she asked quietly. "1 month. At the border, neutral ground. Both sides may bring witnesses, but no warriors. Just me and Kalen, fighting under the moon's eyes." Pretty wanted to scream, to forbid him from going. But she knew David. Once he'd made up his mind, nothing would sway him. And besides, he was right about the political necessity. Refusing the challenge would make him look weak. So she did the only thing she could. She prepared him to survive. The next month was brutal. David trained constantly, pushing himself harder than Pretty had ever seen. He sparred with the kingdom's best warriors, studied Kalen's fighting style through Lyra's intelligence, prepared for every possible scenario. Pretty helped however she could, but mostly she just worried. At night, she held David close, memorizing every detail of him in case the worst happened. "I'm going to win," David promised her. "Pretty, I've never lost a challenge. I'm stronger, faster, more experienced. Kalen is over 100 years old. He survived that long by being clever and ruthless." Pretty's voice trembled. "David, what if you lose? What happens to me? To the kingdom? You'll lead. The alphas respect you now, genuinely. They'll follow your commands even without me. I don't want to lead without you. I want us together. Always." David kissed her, deep and desperate. "Then I'll win. Because giving up isn't an option when you're waiting for me." The day of the challenge arrived too quickly. David and Pretty rode to the border with a small group of witnesses. The pack alphas, Lyra, Demon, and Pania. They met the Shadowborn at dawn, in a clearing marked as neutral ground. Kalen waited there, and Pretty's first sight of him stole her breath. He was massive, even in human form. Easily 7 feet tall, with muscles like corded steel. His hair was white, his eyes black as pitch, and scars covered every visible inch of skin. He looked less like a wolf and more like death itself. "Alpha King David." Kalen's voice was like grinding stone. "You finally came. I've waited decades for this moment." Then let's not delay it further, David said coldly. Do you swear to abide by the challenge's terms? If I win, the Shadowborn disband and swear loyalty. I swear. And when I win, your kingdom will fall. Kaelin's eyes found Pretty. Starting with your Omega Queen. I'm going to enjoy killing her slowly. Pretty felt David's rage through the bond, felt his power spike dangerously. She touched his arm, grounding him. Don't let him provoke you. Fight smart. David nodded, taking a deep breath. Then he stripped off his shirt and began to shift. His wolf form was magnificent, black as midnight, easily 9 feet at the shoulder, with amber eyes that blazed with power. But Kaelin's wolf was a nightmare. Massive and white-furred, with those same black eyes, it looked ancient and terrible. They circled each other as witnesses formed a ring around the clearing. Pretty's heart hammered as she watched them size each other up, looking for weaknesses. Kaelin struck first, lunging with surprising speed. David dodged, counterattacking with claws that raked Kaelin's flank. First blood to David, but Kaelin barely seemed to notice. What followed was the most brutal fight Pretty had ever witnessed. The two wolves tore into each other with savage fury, neither giving quarter. Blood stained the grass, bones cracked, fur flew. Pretty wanted to look away but forced herself to watch. David needed her strength, needed to feel her faith through the bond. You can do this, she sent through their link. I believe in you. She felt David's response, love, determination, and growing pain. Kaelin was strong, far stronger than David had anticipated, and experienced in ways that only a century of survival could teach. The fight dragged on for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Both wolves were bleeding heavily now, limping, exhausted, but neither would yield. Then Kaelin did something unexpected. He shifted mid-attack, returning to human form with a knife in his hand. The blade flashed toward David's exposed throat. David shifted too, catching Kaelin's wrist. They grappled, human against human now, and Pretty saw what Kaelin had planned. The knife was poisoned, coating David's hand where he gripped the blade. David's face went pale as the toxin worked its way into his system. Cheating, Helena roared. This was supposed to be wolf combat. There are no rules in survival, Kaelin snarled. Only winners and losers. Pretty moved before she thought about it. She shifted, her small gray wolf form darting into the fight. Kaelin never saw her coming. She hit him from the side, jaws closing on his knife arm and biting down hard. Kaelin screamed, dropping the weapon. David, despite the poison coursing through him, seized the opportunity. He shifted back to wolf form and lunged for Kaelin's throat. The crunch of bone echoed across the clearing. Kaelin's body went limp. After a moment, David released him and shifted back to human, swaying on his feet. The challenge is complete, David rasped. The Shadowborn will disband and swear loyalty or face annihilation. But Kaelin's followers were already fleeing. Without their leader, they scattered like leaves in wind, disappearing into the free territories. Pretty shifted back and ran to David, catching him as he collapsed. The poison, I'll be fine. Lyra, do you know what was on that blade? Lyra examined the knife, her expression grim. Nightshade extract. It'll weaken you for days, but it's not fatal if treated quickly. She pulled out a vial from her pack. Drink this. It's the antidote. David drank it, grimacing at the taste. Then he looked at Pretty, and his expression was a mix of pride and exasperation. You interfered in a sacred challenge, he said. He broke the rules first. I just evened the odds. Pretty helped him to his feet. Besides, you're my mate. No one threatens you while I'm breathing. David laughed weakly, then pulled her into a crushing embrace. You magnificent, reckless woman. You could have been killed. So could you. We're even. The witnesses approached, and Pretty saw approval on most faces. Even the alphas who might have objected to her interference seemed to understand. Kaelin had cheated first, making the challenge void. The Shadowborn are broken, Donovan declared. With their leader dead and followers scattered, they're no longer a unified threat. We should hunt them down, Garrett suggested. Make sure none regroup. No, David said, still leaning on Pretty. Let them run. They're no longer our problem. If they stay in the free territories and leave our borders alone, we'll leave them alone. It was mercy, again, the kind Pretty had taught him to offer. And seeing the scattered Shadowborn fleeing in terror, Pretty thought maybe this time the mercy would stick. Maybe this time, defeated enemies would learn to choose peace. They returned to the palace to celebration. David had won. The Shadowborn were defeated, and the kingdom was safe. Feasts were held, songs sung, and wolves from every pack came together to celebrate their victory. But Pretty found herself exhausted, barely able to enjoy the festivities. She'd been running on adrenaline for so long that peace felt foreign, uncomfortable. "You need rest," Pania told her firmly. "Real rest, Your Majesty. Days of it. The kingdom needs. The kingdom needs a healthy queen, not a martyr." Pania's tone was sharp. "You've been pushing yourself too hard for too long. Take a break, or your body will make the decision for you." Pretty knew Pania was right. So she did something she'd never done before. She took a week off. No meetings, no petitions, no crisis management. Just time with David, recovering from the fight and reconnecting with each other. They spent the week in the royal chambers, talking and laughing and simply being together without the weight of the crown. David's poison sickness faded and Pretty's exhaustion lifted. By the end of the week, both felt more themselves than they had in months. "I needed this," Pretty admitted, lying in David's arms. "I'd forgotten what it felt like to just be, to not be constantly fighting or planning or worrying." "Me too." David stroked her hair. "Pretty, I've been thinking. We've defeated Marcus, exposed Roland, integrated Lyra's wolves, and killed Kalen. The major threats are gone. Maybe it's time to focus on building rather than defending." "What do you mean?" "I mean schools for young wolves, regardless of their rank. Trade agreements that benefit all packs equally. Laws that protect the weak, not just the strong. All the things you've been advocating for, but we could implement because we were too busy surviving." David turned to face her. "I want to make this kingdom everything you've envisioned. Everything my daughter deserves to inherit." Pretty froze. "Daughter?" David smiled, shy and hopeful. "I've been thinking about pups. About starting a family. If you're ready, that is. I know we've only been mated 8 months, and it's been chaotic." "Yes," Pretty interrupted, tears in her eyes. "Yes, I want that. I want to raise pups with you, David. I want to give them the childhood neither of us had." They kissed, and through the bond, Pretty felt David's joy, his hope for a future that finally felt possible. Over the following months, the kingdom transformed. David kept his promise, implementing reforms that Pretty had only dreamed of. Schools opened in every territory, teaching young wolves reading, mathematics, and history alongside traditional wolf skills. Laws were passed protecting omegas from abuse, ensuring they had rights and opportunities beyond servitude. The changes weren't universally popular. Some wolves, particularly older ones, grumbled about tradition being abandoned. But most recognized the value, especially when they saw omega wolves excelling in previously forbidden roles: healers, teachers, administrators. Pretty also discovered she was pregnant 3 months after the Kalen fight. The news sent the kingdom into celebration, an heir to the throne, a symbol of the new era they were building. "Boy or girl?" David asked, his hand on her still flat stomach. "Does it matter?" "Not even a little. As long as they're healthy and happy." David's expression grew tender. "They're going to have the best mother in the world. And the best father. One who'll teach them to be strong without being cruel, powerful without being tyrannical." The pregnancy was difficult. Pretty suffered terrible morning sickness and was ordered to bed rest for the last 2 months. David barely left her side, governing from her bedside when necessary. "You're going to make yourself sick too," Pretty protested. "Then we'll be sick together." David refused to be moved. Their daughter was born on a winter night when the moon was full and bright. She came into the world screaming, tiny and perfect, with dark hair like Pretty's and amber eyes like David's. "She's perfect," Pretty breathed, holding her daughter for the first time. "David, she's absolutely perfect. Like her mother." David's eyes were wet. "What should we name her?" They debated names for months, but could never agree. Now, looking at their daughter, Pretty knew exactly what to call her. "Luna," she said, "for the moon that brought us together." "Luna Nightshade." "Luna," David repeated, testing the name. Then he smiled. "It's perfect. She's perfect. We're perfect." The kingdom celebrated the birth of Princess Luna with festivals that lasted a week. Every pack sent gifts, and wolves from across the territories came to pay their respects to the future queen. Pretty watched them all, holding her daughter close, and felt overwhelming gratitude. She'd come so far from that terrified omega who sat in the wrong seat. Now she was queen, mother, and partner to the most powerful wolf in the kingdom. "Are you happy?" David asked one night as they watched Luna sleep in her cradle. Happier than I ever imagined possible, Pretty said honestly. There were so many times I thought I wouldn't survive, that the threats would overwhelm us, that I'd fail. But we made it, David. We actually made it. We did. And we'll keep making it, day by day, crisis by crisis. David pulled her close. Because together, we can survive anything. Pretty closed her eyes, listening to Luna's soft breathing and David's steady heartbeat, and believed him. They'd faced assassination attempts, conspiracies, betrayals, and war. They'd survived it all and built something beautiful in the process. The kingdom was at peace. The packs were united. And their daughter would grow up in a world better than the one they'd inherited. It was everything Pretty had hoped for, everything she'd fought for, and it was just the beginning. Princess Luna Nightshade was 5 years old when she asked her first important question. "Mama, why do some wolves call you Omega?" She looked up at Pretty with those amber eyes, so like her father's. "Is that bad?" Pretty and David were in the gardens, watching Luna play with other children, pack pups from various territories, all mixing freely in a way that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. "Omega means I was born without alpha power," Pretty explained gently. "Some wolves think that makes me weak. But you're not weak. You're the queen." "I am. But I wasn't always. When I first came here, many wolves thought I couldn't be queen because I was Omega. They tried to hurt me, to drive me away." Luna's expression grew fierce, so much like David's that Pretty had to smile. "That's mean. If anyone hurts you, I'll fight them. And that's exactly why I tell you this story," David said, joining them. "Luna, your mother fought too. She fought against wolves who were bigger and stronger, and she won. Not through power, but through courage and wisdom and kindness." "Really? Really?" Pretty stroked Luna's hair. "The point is, you can't judge a wolf's worth by their rank or their strength. You judge them by their character, their choices, their heart. Remember that when you're queen someday." Luna nodded seriously, already understanding more than most adults. Then she brightened. "Can I go play with Marcus? He says he knows how to climb the big tree." Pretty tensed at the name, but David squeezed her hand reassuringly. "You can play with young Marcus," he said. "But be careful on that tree. Your mother will have my hide if you get hurt." Luna ran off to join the other pups, and Pretty watched her go with mixed emotions. Young Marcus Thornheart was the grandson of their old enemy, born 2 years after the elder Marcus died in exile. His parents had sworn loyalty to the crown, determined to redeem their family name. And Luna, innocent and accepting as children are, had befriended him without hesitation. "Are you okay with them playing together?" David asked quietly. "I think so. The sins of the grandfather aren't the sins of the child. And Luna needs to learn that people can change, that families can redeem themselves." Pretty leaned against David. "Besides, young Marcus is sweet. Nothing like his grandfather." "No, he's not. And in 20 years, when Luna's queen, maybe he'll be one of her most loyal supporters." The Thornheart family, once our greatest enemies, fully integrated and loyal. Wouldn't that be something? They stood together, watching their daughter play with children from every pack, every background. The gardens were full of laughter and joy, the kind that only came from true peace. The kingdom had grown over the past 5 years. More territories had petitioned to join, attracted by the stability and prosperity. Lyra had become one of Pretty's closest advisors, her knowledge of free territory politics invaluable as they negotiated with remaining independent factions. Demon had married a northern pack wolf and was expecting his first child. Pania had retired to a small cottage but visited regularly, fussing over Luna like a grandmother. Even the reforms Pretty had fought for had taken root. Schools thrived, Omega rights were protected, and pack bonds had strengthened through trade and intermarriage. "I was thinking," David said suddenly, "we should commission a painting. Something to commemorate everything we've built." "Of what?" "The moment you sat in the wrong seat. When everything began." David smiled at her confused expression. "Think about it. That one mistake, that one moment of being in the wrong place, changed everything. It brought us together, unified the kingdom, created all of this." Pretty laughed. "A painting of my most embarrassing moment? How romantic." "It wasn't embarrassing. It was fate." David turned her to face him. "Pretty, do you ever regret it? Any of it? The danger, the threats, the constant pressure?" "Every day," Pretty admitted. "But I'd do it all again. Because the alternative was a life without you, without Luna, without all of this. And that's not really living." "No, it's not." David kissed her, soft and sweet. I love you, pretty nightshade. My queen, my mate, my everything. I love you too. My king, my partner, my home. Luna's laughter rang across the gardens as she successfully climbed the tall tree, other pups cheering her on. Pretty watched her daughter's triumph, saw David's pride, and felt complete. The kingdom was at peace. The packs were won, and their family was happy. It had all started with a wrong seed, a chance meeting, a bond neither of them had expected, and it had led to everything. Pretty smiled, taking David's hand as they watched their daughter play, and thought about that terrified Omega who'd stumbled into the ceremonial hall 10 years ago. That girl who'd been invisible, powerless, convinced she'd never matter. If she could see herself now, queen, mother, beloved by the wolves she led, what would she think? She'd probably think it was impossible, a fairy tale too ridiculous to believe. But Pretty had learned something important over the years. Sometimes the impossible happened. Sometimes the Omega became queen. Sometimes love conquered hate. Sometimes mercy was stronger than vengeance. Sometimes sitting in the wrong seat was exactly where you were meant to be. Come on, David said, tugging her hand. Luna wants us to watch her climbing skills. Pretty followed him into the gardens, into the laughter and light, into the life they'd built together. And she was home. The end. Princess Luna Nightshade was 5 years old when she asked her first important question. Mama, why do some wolves call you Omega? She looked up at Pretty with those amber eyes, so like her father's. Is that bad? Pretty and David were in the gardens, watching Luna play with other children. Pack pups from various territories, all mixing freely in a way that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. Omega means I was born without alpha power, Pretty explained gently. Some wolves think that makes me weak. But you're not weak. You're the queen. I am. But I wasn't always. When I first came here, many wolves thought I couldn't be queen because I was Omega. They tried to hurt me, to drive me away. Luna's expression grew fierce, so much like David's that Pretty had to smile. That's mean. If anyone hurts you, I'll fight them. And that's exactly why I tell you this story, David said, joining them. Luna, your mother fought too. She fought against wolves who were bigger and stronger, and she won. Not through power, but through courage and wisdom and kindness. Really, Pretty stroked Luna's hair. The point is, you can't judge a wolf's worth by their rank or their strength. You judge them by their character, their choices, their heart. Remember that when you're queen someday. Luna nodded seriously, already understanding more than most adults. Then she brightened. Can I go play with Marcus? He says he knows how to climb the big tree. Pretty tensed at the name, but David squeezed her hand reassuringly. You can play with young Marcus, he said. But be careful on that tree. Your mother will have my hide if you get hurt. Luna ran off to join the other pups, and Pretty watched her go with mixed emotions. Young Marcus Thornheart was the grandson of their old enemy, born 2 years after the elder Marcus died in exile. His parents had sworn loyalty to the crown, determined to redeem their family name. And Luna, innocent and accepting as children are, had befriended him without hesitation. Are you okay with them playing together? David asked quietly. I think so. The sins of the grandfather aren't the sins of the child. And Luna needs to learn that people can change, that families can redeem themselves. Pretty leaned against David. Besides, young Marcus is sweet. Nothing like his grandfather. No, he's not. And in 20 years, when Luna's queen, maybe he'll be one of her most loyal supporters. The Thornheart family, once our greatest enemies, fully integrated and loyal. Wouldn't that be something? They stood together, watching their daughter play with children from every pack, every background. The gardens were full of laughter and joy, the kind that only came from true peace. The kingdom had grown over the past 5 years. More territories had petitioned to join, attracted by the stability and prosperity. Lyra had become one of Pretty's closest advisors, her knowledge of free territory politics invaluable as they negotiated with remaining independent factions. Demon had married a northern pack wolf and was expecting his first child. Pania had retired to a small cottage but visited regularly, fussing over Luna like a grandmother. Even the reforms Pretty had fought for had taken root. Schools thrived, Omega rights were protected, and pack bonds had strengthened through trade and intermarriage. I was thinking, David said suddenly, we should commission a painting, something to commemorate everything we've built. Of what? The moment you sat in the wrong seat. When everything began. David smiled at her confused expression. Think about it. That one mistake, that one moment of being in the wrong place, changed everything. It brought us together, unified the kingdom, created all of this. Pretty laughed. A painting of my most embarrassing moment? How romantic. It wasn't embarrassing. It was fate. David turned her to face him. Pretty, do you ever regret it? Any of it? The danger, the threats, the constant pressure? Every day, Pretty admitted. But I'd do it all again. Because the alternative was a life without you, without Luna, without all of this. And that's not really living. No, it's not. David kissed her, soft and sweet. I love you, Pretty Nightshade. My queen, my mate, my everything. I love you too. My king, my partner, my home. Luna's laughter rang across the gardens as she successfully climbed the tall tree, other pups cheering her on. Pretty watched her daughter's triumph, saw David's pride, and felt complete. The kingdom was at peace. The packs were won, and their family was happy. It had all started with a wrong seed, a chance meeting, a bond neither of them had expected, and it had led to everything. Pretty smiled, taking David's hand as they watched their daughter play, and thought about that terrified Omega who'd stumbled into the ceremonial hall 10 years ago. That girl who'd been invisible, powerless, convinced she'd never matter. If she could see herself now, queen, mother, beloved by the wolves she led, what would she think? She'd probably think it was impossible, a fairy tale too ridiculous to believe. But Pretty had learned something important over the years. Sometimes the impossible happened. Sometimes the Omega became queen. Sometimes love conquered hate. Sometimes mercy was stronger than vengeance. Sometimes, sitting in the wrong seat was exactly where you were meant to be. Come on, David said, tugging her hand. Luna wants us to watch her climbing skills. Pretty followed him into the gardens, into the laughter and light, into the life they'd built together. And she was home. The end.